days. Once it's completely dried, we load it into sacks and offer it to locals and merchants.
According to the United Nations, 9 out of 10 Syrians live in poverty. And as winter draws in, many locals turn to the olive coals due to the high price and scarcity of other fuels. The pellets cost half as much as diesel.
A small family could purchase a ton or ton and a half of birin for about $200 or $230. As for diesel, the family would need to spend between $400 to $500 for heating for just one season.
Before the war, birin was a little-known product, but now it's become essential. For many Syrians, the olive tree is a blessing that provides food, fuel and hope. Taiba Aiden, TRT World.
My name is Adejokela Sisi. I'm the founder and creative director of Planet3R. Planet3R is a social enterprise that is dedicated to converting textile and plastic waste into eco-friendly products. I realized that many people are already doing things in the environmental sector, but I noticed that they neglect the pure water sachet a lot. And when you look at it, in a day, some people drink like 10 of it in a day, and they just throw it down like that. I now thought of it that how can we complement the existing solution? How can we use it to make sure that this waste is no longer there, at the same time create opportunity from converting those wastes into items?
I work at Planet3R. I'm the head of the weaving department. I came here as a weaver to learn how to weave. Then I was introduced into how to convert this waste into weaving.
Mo gbọ́ tí nǹkan inform mi nípa Planet3R, but wọ́n dẹ̀ inform mi. So ẹni yẹn ṣàmùmọ̀ àǹtí di ọ̀kẹ́, but wọ́n mú mi sí Sayọ́pẹ́sà, wọ́n train mi.
We've also been able to employ women and girls. Also, we've sensitized the need of having a clean environment to over 6,000 students and communities across Oyo State, Nigeria.
The impact she's making, because people see pure water sachet as irrelevant. I'm done with my water, I bought it 20 naira and I've thrown it away. And then when they see the bag, they see the product of the Planet3R, they're like, you mean that sachet that you're just about to throw away can become this good? I mean, it's phenomenal.
This is Amororo Kitchenette. So we are selling food here. Planet3R is in our neighborhood here. I dispose the pure water nylon to them every week.
We've been trying to do this. We are making sure that nobody is left behind. Even we want to make sure that we catch them young, especially the advocacy part, so that they are conscious of the environment.
Hey, an amazing morning to each and everyone joining on this call. It's so good to have you all. Yeah, I can see everyone joining across different states. Good morning. How is it over there this morning? How is the weather over there? I hope you're having, your day is starting well. I mean, your Friday morning is starting well. Good morning, Mustafa. I can see everyone greeting in the comment section. Yeah, good morning, each and everyone. It's so good to have you all. Good morning, John from Enugu. All right. We believe you had a good start yesterday. And yeah, we are moving on with today's session. And I will just have to stand in place of the moderator, in person of Ololade, though she's going to be joining later. And this morning, we are moving straight to today's session. You know, we said it's going to be various learning series across different boards of this session. And today we are going to be focusing on environmental sustainability and management. And just like we're informed yesterday, I hope you can hear me clearly. Please, I need a yes, no in the comment section. I need to be very sure if you can hear me clearly. All right, awesome. Thank you very much for the confirmation. Yesterday, we were told that these sessions are going to be facilitated by experts, and these are not just industry experts. They are mentors. We need to see them as our mentors, and these are people that have done excellently well, and they are leading the space in line to circular economy and sustainable waste management within and outside the nation. And we are so blessed to have Mrs. Funto Borofis in our midst, who is the founder of an award-winning Chanja Dati Limited, a waste collection and recycling social enterprise dedicated to transforming the waste in our environment to value and creating jobs. And she also has a fintech startup providing access to working capital for Nigeria SMEs, especially women-owned SMEs. And she started her career in the US, where she spent 17 years gaining global experience, 12 years of which were with GE as an executive. In the last 8 years, our organization has successfully diverted almost 6,200 tons from uncontrolled landfill and empowered over 500 women and at-risk youths. Our organization currently has over 200 employees. And this morning, I said we are blessed to have her in our midst, and she is here to share a wealth of experience and knowledge with us. And the next 1 hour, please, I would like you to get your pen, get your notepad, because each and every word she says is going to be a blessing, and you must not miss out of any of this word. Good morning, Mrs. Funto. We are so glad to have you, and thank you for acknowledging our invite. We are so glad to have you this morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, and good morning to everyone. It's my honor and pleasure to be here. I don't ever take this kind of opportunities very lightly, because it supports my passion, which is making sure that our environment is healthy and clean, and that we can create jobs from what we term as waste. So again, thank you so much. And I'm super excited. I don't know how many people I thought would be on the call, but I'm already seeing like 96 people already, and the number keeps on rising. So call me impressed. I'm very impressed. So like Emmanuel already mentioned, I run an organization called Chanja Dati. Even though I'm a Yoruba lady, I'm from Ondo State, but the name Chanja Dati actually means to change dirt or to transform waste. And that was just me paying homage to the fact that, our headquarters is out of Abuja, Nigeria. So a lot of people just call me Madam Chanja Dati. I think more people know me as Madam Chanja Dati than even my real name at this point, and I take that with pride. So I have a few slides, slightly more than a few slides to show you. And then hopefully I'll also be able to share like a video that the UK Nigeria has done for us. Or maybe we can, Emmanuel, you tell me, which one should we start with first? The video or the pitch? Because I think the video will sort of highlight some of the work we're doing. And then I can sort of jump into environmental sustainability and management. I'm going to be talking about waste to wealth. I'm going to be talking about linear and circular economy, and social entrepreneurship versus ecopreneurship. Because again, my understanding is that all of you are all in the circular economy space. All of you are interested in, how we can turn waste to wealth. Is that correct? Can I just see your hands up through the reaction, whatever, if I'm getting the room right? Okay, I just see one, but I'm seeing more hands going up. Okay, perfect. So I will share the link, or maybe Emmanuel, is it possible, please, to share the link with you on the chat box, and then you can maybe play it, or because I have to also confess that I'm still I still sometimes try to find my way around
Okay,
Zoom
you can
and all this link.
You can share the link with me, and let's see if we can. Is it from YouTube?
It's actually from Instagram.
Okay. We can, let's see how it goes. We hope it works well. You can share the link with me.
Okay, actually, maybe. Okay, let me share the link. Let me share the link in the. So, but while we're trying to sort that out, I want you all to please start thinking about questions for me, because I think it is going to be very crucial to, I don't want this to be just me talking to people. I want this to be very, what's the word? I want it to be very interactive. And I think for me, one of the things I've found is that this kind of interaction, I think a lot of people gain more from experiential, asking questions than me just, going off of a pitch and, you all just listening to me. So please, again, start to think about some of the questions you either have or as I'm talking, you have, and just scribble it down. And I'll make sure that I'll try as much as possible to answer all those questions. And the one we are not able to answer, maybe because of time, I make a commitment that I will come back and answer those questions. Emmanuel can share with you. So Emmanuel, did you see the link? Are we good to go, or it's in the chat box?
I'm going to pick it up. All right, received. You are received now.
Okay. So while he's doing that, I'm going to just keep, just give you a quick background of Chanjadati and when we started. So Chanjadati started, so as he mentioned, I schooled and lived abroad for close to 20 years, actually. I worked with an organization called General Electric in the US. And I was actually, before I came back to Nigeria, I was actually a vice president with them. So I was earning big money. I was earning good money too. But, there was always one thing that each time I came back to Nigeria and each time I came back home, my heart would just always be drawn to the fact that, number one, our community was very dirty, very, very, very dirty. And I was just like, and it was always a culture shock for me from coming from a place like US where things were relatively cleaner to like Nigeria, where every road, median roadside or whatever would have waste in it. So that was the first thing. The second thing was, again, I don't want to date myself, but I'm closer to 50 than I am to 40. But most people, even old enough to be my grandparents, would be like, auntie, come on, begging and genuflecting and greeting you because of $1 or $2 they wanted to collect from you. And it was the Nigeria that I remember. I always said we're proud people. Even if you go across Africa now and people say, you're from Nigeria, one of the things they talk about is our confidence, right? That we're very confident people. We're proud, confident people. So when I saw this actually disheartened me because I was like, what is going on here? Why are people? And then when you talk to them and you try and peel back the onion a bit to say, okay, what's going on? They will say, man, no job, my daughter, no job, or whatever. So I think by the time I decided I was going to come back, I was clear that I wanted to create something, a platform of some sort that would not only help people create jobs, but would also clean up our environment. And so that was sort of what the genesis behind the idea around what to do. And then when I came back to Nigeria, again, regardless of how old you are when you come to Nigeria, as long as you graduate before 30, you have to go and do your youth service. So I was way over 30 by this time. I was even closer to 40 than 30, but I still had to serve. And I ended up serving at the Ministry of Power. So one of the things that came out, a lot of investors were coming in to do waste to energy. You have a lot of waste in Nigeria, 200 million plus people. Your waste is, we can use your waste to generate power. You guys are you have less than 4 gigawatts of power for the whole country. So it was a great opportunity, but unfortunately, we don't sort our waste in Nigeria. So I saw not 1, not 2, not 5, not 10 investors walk away because they were like, the amount of money it would take to even just separate the waste or whatever to be able to make it useful for electricity generation would defeat the purpose, right? They would not be able to make any money or whatever. So that got me thinking. I was like, why are we not separating our waste at source? Why are people not separating their waste in their homes, in their schools, in their offices? And so that was what sort of really, really pushed me and burst the idea of Chanjadati, that we wanted a platform where not only could we sensitize people and raise awareness around sorting at source, but we also wanted to ensure that anybody that didn't have a job, you could take the lowest common denominator, which is waste, that everybody generates. The average person generates between 0.5 to 0.75 kilograms of waste a day. So this is something that you will not be looking for. Waste is not something that we should all be looking for, right? So that was sort of what pushed me, and I decided to launch Chanjadati. And I started with I started with the staff of myself. I converted my driver to be the first employee of Chandedati. And then I had 2 more young guys. And in 8+ years now, we've grown from those 4, including myself, staff members, to now I have a staff strength of over 80 some people, 85 or 86 full-time, and 135 part-time women and young boys within our Chandedati family. And we have 3 locations. So we're in 2 in Abuja and 1 in Ondo State, which is where I'm from. So let me just quickly pause and ask Emmanuel. Emmanuel, are you ready, or should I just go with my pitch? Because I could go either way. I'm flexible. You're on mute.
We are good. I believe we are good to go with the.
Okay.
But I need to be very sure, and to just a minute. You can just in a minute. I know we have the video already, but I want to play directly from Zoom. So I don't want any itches, but let me see if I can share now.
Okay. And if we have any technical difficulties, I'll just revert back to the pitch and we'll go ahead with the pitch then.
Okay. Let's see if we can share now.
Za mu samu ci gaba kuma mun ka ci gaba da tarawa da gidana ba gini bane, ina zaune ne a irin bacha din nan. Yanzu akan wannan kamfanin da nake amfani da su nake yin aiki da su, yanzu gidana nayi gini kuma ina da shagon provision.
Emmanuel, we might need to start from the beginning. That was in the beginning.
So that's the challenge of playing directly from Instagram. So I need to get it out of Instagram just in a minute. I'm going to play that shortly.
Okay.
All right. Now. And like you mentioned something, and which was really mind blowing for me. And I also want each and every youth on this call to get connected with that learning. And I also want you to dive and share more experience on that. You starting from 1 to 4 and having over 100 employees and having 200 now, which they are working with you effectively. And many people see this as, many people don't see that process, and they don't see that as a waiting process or a learning curve, which they can get to build capacity around. But sometimes we just want these 200 employees, 500 employees at once. I want to throw this question to you. How was it going through this transition process? Can you just share more light on that briefly?
Yes, and I would really want to encourage every young person on the call that, you either decide for yourself whether you want to be a cash crop or you want to just be a seasonal crop, right? So do you want to be like a cashew tree or a rubber tree or all palm that is yielding fruits years and years down the line? Or do you want to be like, maize or beans, right? It's seasonal, it comes sharp, but, there's no longevity to it. I will tell you that, that process is not an easy process, but I can beat my chest and say that there's not a lot around this business now that even if I don't know, I know people to call on. And I think for anything you want to get into, you need to have that depth. It's not good enough to have breadth of knowledge. You need to really have the depth of knowledge as well. And that can only come when you've paid your dues. And paying your dues means that you grow. You grow. I mean, one of the things that I was very certain about was that I wanted to make sure that we were growing organically. Because a lot of people sometimes will set up an NGO in this space and because collecting money from grants and from grantors and NGO foundations and things like that. That's one way to go for sure. But I'll tell you that when you're growing organically and you have salaries to pay and you're trying to grow bit by bit, you last, in my mind, a lot longer because you're learning the ropes of the business. And there've been some hard knock lessons that I've learned along the way that if I hadn't learned, I don't think we would be as successful as we are today. And that's just the truth. So I would ask everybody to please don't rush for quick money. Don't say, I don't want to go through, trust the process and follow the process. And the process for me, it's taking This is our eighth plus year now. But some people, their process might not be as long. Their process might be 2 years, 3 years. But I will always say, please don't say, oh, within 6 months, if you're not hitting millions, you're like, this thing is useless, let me walk away. No, there's a process to this thing. And I have to also remind everybody that when I started this, when I started Change.tea, there were not a lot of female recyclers, period. There were maybe a handful. So it was me pushing against the grain and working in a sector that was really male dominated, and people were just like, what is, but I was determined that I wanted to bring back, I wanted to make this sector more sexy. What I mean by sexy is like anybody, whether you have a PhD, you have a MSc or whatever, would come into this sector and feel like, okay, I don't mind working in this sector. Because, historically, a lot of this, our waste sector has been dominated by informal sector. So a lot of people say, oh, bola, they look down on it. And I was like, no, because honestly, between me and you guys, this is a multi-billion-dollar sector, right? If it's harnessed properly and we do get the right things, this is a multi-billion-dollar sector. So if we can add the finesse to it, if we can put structures in place, if we can put processes in place, and you are able to do the right thing, I promise you that it might not be an easy journey, but at the end of the day, you're smiling. I'll give you another thing that I'm super proud of right now, is the fact that, in the last maybe 5 months now, because those babies are growing up, I've had 7 of my staff members have babies. So I'm now honorary grandma to a lot of babies now. But you know what that means is that these were people that some of them got married after they joined Change.tea. So families are even being birthed, right, from an idea that I had like 8+ years ago. I'm saying that to say, look, it's not just even about the money. At the end of the day, it's not just about the money. It's about the people you can help. It's about the impact you can make in your community. It's about what you can do to leave a legacy in the sands of time when all is said and done. Is said and done. I always tell people that I might not be as rich as Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, money-wise. But if it's in terms of prayer, that people are praying for me, my staff members, the people who are eating under me are praying for me, I'm richer than all those people times 10. You understand? So I want you guys to think about it, not just from a monetary perspective, because again, unfortunately, a lot of us are just like, oh, money, money, money. But think about it from what can I do, what the impact I'm making not just for my country and my environment, but for people around me. So one of the biggest joys I have is that, people, again, like I said, are building families from and feeding their families from this thing that I had an idea like 9 years ago. But also that we have some initiatives where, for example, we sent over 1,000 children to school and they're paying their school fees, or they pay their school fees with waste. The fact that we're providing livelihoods for women here in northern Nigeria, where some of them, they weren't doing anything before, and all of a sudden, now they're able to open their bank accounts with waste. Like, they don't even need to look for 1,000 naira to open bank accounts. Just bring, even if it's 1 kilogram of waste. We have a partnership with a national bank where you take it to any of our hubs and you're able to open your bank account. So these are just some examples of what we've been able to do. But again, like I said, I have a proper presentation for you, but I really wanted to show the video first so that you guys can at least have an idea of what we can do, and then we will dive into conversation.
Okay. Video is, thank you very much, Madam Funto, for this encouragement and motivation you shared. We are starting with this morning. It goes a long way. So our video is ready and should be showed shortly now.
Okay. We're number 7 in the world in terms of population. By 2050, we're going to be number 3 in the world, just after China and India. So if we don't take care of our waste, the waste will come back and waste us. Every time I came home, one of the things that jumped out at me was the amount of waste that I saw in my environment. And this was very concerning, especially coming from the US. So one of the things that I decided when I finally moved back home to Nigeria was that I was going to be part of the solution. So one of the things that I started was this idea around the cash for trash, where we can turn waste into wealth by also creating jobs.
Ba ni da wani sana'an da nake.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I think that's a technical glitch. We have to, let me see if I can share.
So, okay, Emmanuel, if the glitch continues, we can just share it for everybody on the.
Okay, we can share.
And everybody go and watch it afterwards. And please, again, it's the UK, Nigeria, whatever. So please just like it and just tell them job well done, to thank them on our behalf. But they came and they, because they've supported us with a program called Nigeria for Nature. And they just wanted to come and just check in again with us, and they did that video. And I use it to just tell a story. But again, as you can see from the video that I shared, right? That place that you were seeing is our own space. It's one of our factory in Abuja. That is what is possible. And again, this is not just the end for us. This is sort of like the beginning for us, because there's so much waste in Abuja, in the northern part of Nigeria, in Nigeria as a whole, that even all of us, we're 152 right now on the call. If all of us started recycling businesses or collection businesses, it would not be enough to gather all this waste. We're talking about 2.5 million tons of waste generated yearly in Nigeria. That's a lot of waste, of plastic waste. Okay, and unfortunately, Nigeria, we also have, even though because of our numbers and because we're not doing the right thing, we're the #9 country in the world in terms of pollution of oceans. So again, when I'm talking about impact and talking about work that we can do, I want us to really please take this thing seriously. So now I'm going to jump into my pitch, and then we can sort of go from there. Please, I hope you guys are writing down your questions, and I want to be very respectful of time. So I'm just really going to breeze through. I'm going to breeze through this pitch. I'm just going to touch on some key elements. I'm going to share I'm going to share this with you guys afterwards. So don't be afraid that you're going to miss anything or whatever. Just hear me talk, right? So again, Emmanuel and Tim had asked me to talk about environmental sustainability and management, which is what I'm going to sort of be touching on a bit. But for me, the core thing that I'm passionate about, right, is how do we use innovative ideas to build and scale a sustainable impact-driven business. And for me, in this example, for me, what I have used is waste, right? And again, we're talking about waste wealth, and specifically not just waste, but I'm using mainly plastic, right? I saw the video with Adejoke, who's a dear younger sister of mine, and she's using pure water. That's her core focus. There are people who are collecting they're collecting metals, there are people who are collecting textile now. There are people who are collecting paper, carton. There's so many different waste streams that you can focus on if you don't want to be a jack of all trades. So again, that's why this doesn't have to just be specifically plastic. It could be any kind of waste stream that you want to really go after. So this is just the overview, introduction to sustainable development, UN SDGs, ecopreneurship versus social entrepreneurship, waste to wealth concept, linear and versus circular economy. Again, this is me in one of our hubs. So we have 2 hubs in Abuja. And this one is me standing in front of a pile of bottles in our place in Area 1. And we also produce pellets, right? So those bags are our Chanja plastic, right? I've already introduced myself. Anybody who has any additional questions can ask me after the fact. So what is sustainability? Again, for us, a simple definition is just the ability to sustain or the capacity to endure. So this is, again, an equilibrium relationship between human activities and their physical surroundings. I'm sure all of you have seen instances where people, when they're driving down the road, they buy Coke and maybe Lacasera or Coke and Gala in the traffic, right? Especially Lagos or other really heavily densely populated places. And then when they're done, they just toss out the bottle. How many of people have seen that, right? And that is so not right? That is where we're not, that equilibrium that we're talking about between our activities and physical surroundings is not happening. And unfortunately, because again of population growth, increased economic activities, and all the other things that's listed here, we have a real problem in our hands. Again, this is just the concept of sustainable development. We're going to share this, so I don't want you to sort of read or whatever, and I'm not going to really go over it, but just know that the first UN conference on human environment happened in 1972. So we're talking about this issue for a long time. It's not just 1972 now is I think over 50 years, if I'm correct. So this is not a new topic that we're talking about, but unfortunately, we don't have enough people who are really passionate about it, who are saying that this is what we're going to do. And so I'm hoping that, again, I'll continue to say throughout this conversation that I hope that everybody that's listening to me now is really going to take up the mantle and not just talk about it, but actually do something concrete about how they want to play in this whole sustainability development space. So what are the 3 pillars of sustainability? Again, it's people, it's planet, and it's profit. For me, I've even added one more to it just for our own internal whatever. I call it the 4 Ps. So it's people, it's planet, it's profit. And honestly, you can't do the work that you want to do if you don't form partnerships. And I want to quickly encourage everybody that sometimes, especially in Nigeria, I've seen this over and over again, people are very secretive and they don't want to share information, and they were like, oh no, it's my idea, I don't want to share. The only way you can really move ahead and you can really, do well is honestly to collaborate with your peers. So, if some of you are from, I've seen a lot of people from maybe Kano or Bauchi, there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, how can we work together to collectively together, and maybe when we have critical mass of materials, we can sell to one person. Okay, maybe one person is asking for 50 tons. Me, I have 10, you have 10, and the other person has 30. There's nothing wrong with combining forces together to sell to that one person at 50 tons, if that makes sense. So please, I want us to, again, the 4th P is partnerships. So again, this is just the pillars more defined, and again, economic stability is the the ability of an economy to support the levels of economic production. Environmental sustainability is the ability of the environment to support environmental quality and natural resources. And then social is that's the people side of things. And then these are just the 3 concepts. Again, you have time to go through this. I'm not going to go over everything. I'm sure by now, and I'm hoping by now, that you've all talked about the SDGs. If you've not talked about the SDGs, so you don't know anything about the SDGs, please, I can't say it enough. Please go and Google it. It's under sdgs.un.org.goals and find out where you want to play within the SDGs. It is so critical that you know what the 17 goals are. It is so critical that you know whatever work you're doing as it aligns to this. It is so critical because when the world is talking, right, even in UNGA now, which is the UN General Assembly that's going on in New York right now, when people start to talk about the goals that all of the world leaders are trying to solve, they all always come back to the Sustainable Development Goals. It used to be called the Millennium Development Goals, and now it's the Sustainable Development Goals. So again, I'm not going to talk too much about this, but please just make sure that, if anybody wakes you up in the middle of the night and says, do you know what the SDGs are? Not only are you able to tell us what it is, but you can at least mention, I would say hopefully all, but at least a few ones that ties back to what you're interested in or where you're playing in. So what is social entrepreneurship? Again, social entrepreneurship is just the process by which individuals, which are all of you here, startups or entrepreneurs, develop and fund solutions that directly address social issues. So for us, the social issue that we're really talking about right now would be, everything around circular economy, around waste to wealth. And I already mentioned consider the 4 Ps, right? So people, planet, profit, and then partnerships. And then what is ecopreneurship? Again, it's a bit of a dive down from social because social is still more high level. Ecopreneurship focuses deliberately and exclusively on environmental, green, or ecological systems. Again, waste to wealth, circular economy, you can, if you've started any kind of trade or business around this, you can proudly call yourself an eco entrepreneur. Proudly. Yeah. And then in terms of linear and circular economy, again, what we used to do historically was linear, right? We'll just take resources, we'll use it, we'll extract, use it, and then we'll just throw it away, right? But now the world is saying, look, our reserves are going down. We need to adopt a more circular economy so that instead of taking these resources, using it and throwing it away, we can either repair, we can reuse, we can recycle, we can remake, so that we can preserve our resources. So how many people know that, and I'll use paper as an example, right? Even though plastic is where my sweet spot is. But you know that for every paper that we produce or manufacture right now, a few trees have to go down before we can generate the paper, right? Because paper is made out of trees or mulch from trees. But now people are talking about, why don't we recycle the paper? So there's a big push now for people to recycle paper so that you don't have to cut down trees to make new paper. I think if by the last statistics I saw around papers, I think for every ton that is generated for papers, I think 17 trees have to die. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, I think those are the stats. So again, now that we're recycling, means less trees have to die, right? And that's sort of like the push of between linear versus circular economy. The same with plastic. I mean, plastic is made from fossil fuel, right? It's made from oil. By the time you drink this bottle, right? Which again, if you use this bottle and you throw it on the landfill, it can last up to 1,000 years on the landfill without degrading, right? But if we can reuse this bottle for something else, I mean, I have clients in the textile industry, I have clients in the plastic industry, I have clients in the construction industry who use this material. You know, they turn into fiber. For any of you Man U or Nike fans, they use it to make shoes now. They use to make jerseys, those jerseys that they use on playing on sports. These things are useful. So instead of getting virgin materials, you can recycle this into something else. And so that's the push that the world is going on right now about linear versus circular economy. So again, I'm not going to really talk about this, but these are global examples of impact-driven businesses. Everybody, please, again, when I share this this slide with you guys, or when Emmanuel shares it with you guys, please go and read up on this businesses, because they've been able to run businesses that are impact-driven, and it's been helpful for not just themselves, but their community and the world. And then these are examples of, again, impact businesses run by African. I mean, I'm very partial because I'm a woman, and I feel like we don't see enough women even in this space. So these are things that women have done in terms of impact-driven businesses that, you know, lend itself to some of what we're talking about, sustainable business. So again, this is our why, right? Every year we dump over 2 billion tons of waste globally. And this number is going to rise to 3.4 billion by 2025 if we don't do anything about it. And unfortunately, Nigeria, 206+ million people, were the largest producers of solid waste in Africa. And of the 64 million that is collected, only about 20 to 30 is collected. So the remaining end up in our waterways, in our landfills. And that's why whenever it rains, you just see that, you know, people start talking about, this water carried someone's house away or carried somebody away or whatever. We need to put a stop to that. And again, if you want to do additional research, you will see where my data source is, worldbank.org, what a waste, to get more information. So this is, again, more information that we've around us. I talked about bottles for books and how we're sending children to school. I talked about cash for trash, income generation, generating opportunity. These are ideas that all of you can think of, right? Innovative ideas, to not just, because some of, you know, one of the things I've learned is that nobody really wants to be known as bola. You know, people always like, I don't want people to say, oh, I'm just picking bottle. So you can come up with a nice, innovative way to package it, so that even if you're picking bottles, you can elevate the style of bottle you're picking that makes it acceptable and makes you feel comfortable with the work you're doing. And so by doing that, you are able to not only help people, but you are making sure that you know, our environment is getting cleaner and cleaner. So again, this is our solution: waste plus recycling equals to money. And so that video that I showed you was really to talk about this aspect of things, right? So one of the questions I have for you, and I know I really went fast, but like I said, I don't really want to waste too much time, you know, going over a pitch that I'm going to share with you guys. You guys can sort of go through this yourself. You can, you know, do further research online. But the big question I have for each and every one of you, 175 of you here, is, what are you going to do? I want you to be rest assured that you can make money while doing good. They don't need to be at odds. Because some people will be like, I don't feel good making money while, you can make money while even helping people. That there's nothing wrong with it. Because in order to be able to make sure that your business is viable and continues to live and continues to help more people, you need to be able to make money to make sure that you can switch on the lights, you can pay salaries when you start hiring people. So don't ever feel conflicted about the fact that you were making money while doing good. And then again, is your business, if your business has a truly positive impact, then how can you value what you're doing and make sure you're monetizing it? So one of the ways that we've done is that not only are we collecting the waste, but we've connected now with people who need this waste. Okay, like I mentioned, people in the textile sector, they're turning into fiber. People in the construction sector, they're turning it into, they're mixing with for interlocking tiles and things like that. People in the plastic sector, they're turning into buckets, bowls, you know, different plastic household goods. People in the food and beverage sector, which is one of the ones that we're really going after now. A lot of companies, countries, Europe, especially in Europe, UK, US, are saying that every country, and even Nigeria is jumping on the bandwagon now, that every bottle like this must have recycled content in it. So before, this used to be 100% virgin, but now they're saying that in Europe, by 2030, at least 30% of this bottle must be recycled content. And so when they say recycled content, what that means is that 30% of it must come from an old bottle that looks like this. So again, that is what we're trying to work on, and make sure that we're able to provide this feedstock to these companies in Europe and North America. Again, I asked you the question, what problem are you solving for, right? I don't know if any of you have seen a social business model Canva. Emmanuel, please, I'm not going to really talk about this today, but I think this is something that is going to be very critical for your youth to sort of at least have an idea. You don't have to write a big business plan when you want to start out your business. You can just do this one pager and understand the 9 areas, right? So just give you a quick snapshot of how am I going to, what are the resources I need? What are the activities, right? What is my value proposition? How am I going to tell people about what I'm doing? What is my cost structure? What am I going to be spending money on? How am I going to be making money? If you can really articulate that on just one sheet of paper before you start spending money to build a 50-page or 20-page business plan, you can quickly decide whether or not the idea that you have makes sense or it doesn't make sense. Yeah. And then this last, I think this is the last page. You know, when you start making money and you're making impact, I always want to just encourage everybody that, again, I keep on saying it, and I'm not ashamed of it. You need to lead with financial viability. Whatever you do, you need to be able to generate a revenue, especially if you're not an NGO. If you're an NGO, a charity, fine. But if you're a business, you need to make sure that you lead with, how do I generate revenue from what I'm doing? You need to make money to make impact. If you want to help people, you know, you need to be able to make money to be able to make that impact. You need to make sure that your business model, whatever you want to do, make sure that your business model is viable. So even if you want to start doing recycling or collection or whatever, the video where we saw with Adejoke of Planet 3R, all those things she's making out of pure water sachets, she's selling them. Me and her were in Kenya earlier on this year, and she brought samples of her goods. She brought wallets, she brought notepad covers, slippers. I'm telling you that before we left Kenya, she had sold, if not everything, and she didn't sell it for Naira, she sold it for cool dollars. So again, you need to focus on a business model. How are you going to be making money with whatever you're trying to do? And then when you talk to investors, an investor could be your dad, it could be your mom, it could be your uncle. It doesn't have to be one Oyinbo person in US. You need to be able to show them that even though you are creating a social business, right, that is first and foremost a business, so that you can show them how you're going to make your money. And then last but not the least, I will say that please, you know, in any of this kind of forays or forums, please get to know each other. You know, my understanding is that this is not a one-time thing. You guys are going to be together for months, right? Make sure that at the end of the day, each time I go for a meeting, I always say my time is very important. So if I go, I'd say, oh, I'm going to go for an event. I make sure that I collect at least 10 people's cards before I leave that place to justify me leaving my bed or in front of my computer. So I would say that, I don't know how many people are in this class, but I see 184 people right now. You should at least have 10% of the people, which is 18, that you know after this program is done, that you know that if you all start the business together and you run into any problems or you have any questions, you'd be like, oh boy, how far? I did this, so I need help. Or my sister, how far? I need help. What's going on? You need people, you need to start building that network, right? Because you never know where you even meet each other in the future. And then, you know, the one thing I'll encourage everybody is that, you know, you can either pull up people or be pushed up, but just make sure that you are in motion. That is all I'm going to say. Make sure you're in motion. Don't just expect the government to do everything for you. Don't be saying, oh, the government did this, the government did not do this. Please start something, do something. And when you're doing something, people will come to help you to make whatever you're doing bigger and better. Again, thank you so much. That's the end of my presentation. I'm going to share with Emmanuel. Emmanuel, you have my free liberty to share with everybody on the group. And if anybody goes through it and has additional questions, they can definitely come back to you and you can come back to me. So that's my spiel. So again, I'm open for questions unless, Emmanuel, you want to you want to sort of give us directions. But I know I went pretty quickly through that. But I didn't want to spend too much time just talking, and because you can get that information later. I want us to interact. You ask questions, I can answer, and you can pick my brains right now.
Okay, please let's celebrate Madam Olufunto. I want to see in the comment section. I want to see you all celebrating her. Let's appreciate her for this insightful session she led. And she said she didn't want to take so much time. However, what she has taught us this morning is just like a 5-hour lecture, and we are loaded. Thank you for this knowledge, and thank you for the impacts you've made this morning. And I know that I can see people's comments. Yeah, thank you so much. Everyone, so good. I believe it's been a good time this morning. So if you have a question, kindly raise your hand. And for those who their hands are up and their display name is not in the appropriate format, your display name should start with your state name. We know that we have people joining across the 36 states in Nigeria in this program. So it's very important for you to join with your state name. Please, Ma, we are going to be taking 3 questions at once because we have hands up, and you'll be able to respond to these 3 questions, and we move to the next set. So once I call you, please, you just have to unmute your mic and ask your question. But whichever question you're asking must be related to the session. If it's really regarding presentation slide, you are going to have presentation slide. If it's regarding the attendance is after the whole session. Please don't ask any question that is outside this session. Okay, I'm going to start with Fortune. Fortune from River State. Can you unmute your mic and ask your question?
Okay. Hello, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Can you hear me? Okay, please, I want to first of all thank our listening. This was really insightful and really interesting. And what really struck me was the 8 years gap she used to build something so powerful. So here in River State, Port Harcourt, I'm just starting up something on waste segregation from source, from households and all that. So my major concern now, which I want to ask her, government involvement, because our problem here, especially in the coastline regions, communities that are around riverine areas, they dump their waste on the water bodies and they believe water carries and go away. So I don't know how we can get government involved, because these waste trucks that come to carry waste and all that, they don't reach these areas. So I don't know how to go about, if it's Ministry of Environment, or how to get to the government so these waste trucks can come as far as these coastline settlements. At least that way, if they know that, or if they're expecting waste trucks to come and pick up their waste, they have a designated dump site, it's going to help, it's to encourage them. But when nobody is coming to pick up their waste, they just dump it on the water body and water carries away. And when the pipes are high, it still brings back this waste in manifold. So my question is how to get government involved, because for now I'm partnering with some wastepreneurs around my area. So we don't know how to go about reaching government to try to get these waste collector trucks towards our region. It's more like we are isolated from out there. They have where they stop and go back. So how to bring these waste trucks down?
Okay, that question is well gotten, and she's going to respond to it from my experience. And I'm going to call on Wisdom from Imo State. Can you unmute your mic? Make your question very brief and go straight to your question. Wisdom, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Can you hear me? Good morning.
Good morning, this morning.
Okay. My question is, in the rules involved in waste management, which aspect can one focus on? Maybe just collection of the waste and sending it to a company that does recycling, or can one be involved in the whole process, collecting it and also do the recycling? And what are some of the end products that this waste, the nylon waste and then the canned waste? What are some of the end product that this waste can be converted into?
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. We call on Sulaiman Kadejat from Port Harcourt. You can unmute your mic and ask your question. Sulaiman.
Okay. Hello. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Madam Chanja Dati. Let me call you that. I think I follow you up on LinkedIn already, though. My question is getting what is it called, machineries to be able to do the conversion. In River State, Port Harcourt, I attended the conference of Nigerian Environmental Society, and as in waste was also part of it, but it was just like 2 places that are almost located in the same area where people have to send all of their waste. So the other locations, I don't even know the place, first of all. So I'm looking at, okay, machineries that can be used in the conversions of waste. How do we go about them, getting them and the likes? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question. Over to you, Ma. We appreciate you provide insight and answers to the questions.
Sure. And I think there's a linkage between Khadija from Port Harcourt and Fortune. So I think, one of the first things I'll say is that for anybody who is really serious about this and knows that this is what they want to do, I would encourage each and every one of you to look up Recyclers Association of Nigeria online and see whether you can join. And the reason why I'm talking about RAN right now and joining RAN is because RAN is a national body around recyclers, right? And so the concern that Fortune has with regards to who do I reach out to, I would say start with your waste management agency in River State. And I don't know what the acronym, I'm sure River State has a waste management agency. Every state also has a Federal Ministry of Environment. So you can start by writing to them. But can I be honest with all of you, because I'm going to be very transparent. You need to manage your expectations of what government will do, because there's no money. So in order for what you want to happen, it means that they must have trucks to go and be going to all this coastal, especially if it's far. If there's someone that will be saying, the amount of diesel we will have to use to go to the coastal, likely, can I be honest? And some people might say, I have more faith in Nigeria. Me personally, I would say this is an opportunity for you to step in. Okay, the lack of infrastructure that you're talking about is a good opportunity for you to step in and start asking people to sort their waste at source, because government will not do it. One of the reasons why I got into the thing was because I said if we were going to be waiting for government to do what they're supposed to do, we'll wait for a long time. Okay, so government will not do it. So you need to be the one, private sector has to step in and say, the one where government leaves it or will pick up. I say that to say that, you know what, you can start encouraging people to sort their waste at source, right? You can start talking about not just for the biodegradable, but even the non-biodegradable. So Khadijat is also from Port Harcourt. I see some other people. Why don't you guys, under this umbrella, under Emmanuel's program, form a group, right? And start exchanging ideas, because almost everything that is generated can be turned into something else. Even the food waste that people are using in their homes, it can be turned into fertilizer. So at the end of the day, the only thing that really should be going into the landfill, if people can reduce it drastically, if they sort their waste, right? So my challenge back to you, Fortune, and even to Khadija as well, right, is that you need to be able to, sorry, just give me a second, please. Just give me a second. Let me deal with something.
So I will just quickly say something to, okay, I think.
Sorry, I'm back. Oh, sorry, I'm back. Sorry, I had to quickly talk to someone. So what I was saying was that, Fortune, if you start collection, for example, and Khadija is, because she's asking for cost, where machineries can be found. For me, I bought my machineries from China, right? But there are people in Lagos, for example, who they don't really get involved in the collection. Their core focus is just enabling the environment by ensuring that they import the machineries. So there are people like that you can get in touch with if you don't want to deal with the stress of imports and whatever. So the link that I was about to make is that, so Fortune, at the end of the day, you could potentially collect if that's where you want to focus on waste segregation and collection. And then maybe Khadija, because she's asking about machineries and they're all in Port Harcourt. If she wants to focus on converting, right? What that means is that you guys can collaborate. And I keep on talking about partnerships, it's so critical, right? So that is my response to you. With regards to Wisdom from Imo State, you asked what aspect you can focus on. Is it collection? Is it processing? And I said, depends on your budget, right? Collection is the lowest hanging fruit that you can start to do immediately without even having any major money. Okay, and this is a hack that I'm going to share with all of you. I remember one young guy, he was the younger brother of someone that used to work for my father. So he came to me and he said, oh, mother, you know, he's studied guidance and counseling university. He's a teacher in Jos. He hadn't been paid for 5 months. And he needed a new job. He said, oh, do I have a job? I said, no, I don't have a job, unfortunately. But let me show you what you can do in this business with no money down, that you can start to make money. And if you, and I think his salary was 20,000 naira a month. That was the salary. I said, that if you do this and you do it well, and I said, do you speak Hausa because we're in the north? He said, yes. I said, go to a dump site, talk to some of these young boys that are collecting waste, agree with them that you don't have money yet, but you will give them, even if it's a small advance, you can even give them, you don't have all the money. Let them collect for you. You come and deliver to my factory. I'll pay you immediately. You go back and you settle any money that is outstanding, and you still have money left over. Do you know that within a month, he brought 5 trucks to us? And those each truck, I think I paid him over 200,000 naira. So the money that he was going to make for his salary, I'm sure that he more than made it up. What I'm telling you now is that you can start with collection, where you can go to hotels, you can go to schools, you can go to bottling companies, you can go to different places that you know generates a lot of waste. Don't go to households immediately because that would be more work. But go to places that you know they generate a lot of waste, and that you can talk to them and say, look, if you don't have a collection process here, I want to start collecting in bulk, right? That's one way to do it. And then you can also look for someone who will buy, to say, look, oh, I have contract with these people, I'm collecting. Can you come and either pick up, or if I bring to you, I need to be able to be paid immediately so I can pay the people that have collected. That's just one way. But if you have more money, because again, the higher you go in the value chain, the more you can get for your materials, but it also means that the more money you have to spend on machinery, on electricity, on staff, so you just have to figure out, and that's why Emmanuel, I talked about that business model canvas, that social business model canvas, because anybody that wants to start this thing, you quickly look at what your cost structure is and what your revenue is. I say you can go as big or as small as you want to. It depends on your budget and how you think that you can sort of work to sort of make it successful. Hopefully that answered your questions, your question, Wisdom.
Thank you very much for the insightful response you've given. And we still have many hands up. For those of us that have asked questions, please, you can drop your hand. I would like to call on Naji from Enugu. You can unmute your mic and ask a question. Please make it very brief so that others can also have the opportunity to ask their questions.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. My question is, for someone who wants to start up a recycling plant and but doesn't have the capacity, capital to carry it on now, and doesn't have the capacity as well, what do you suggest? That is one. And two, where can one focus in starting up, like a startup? Where can we focus? Thank you.
Okay, I'll call on Thomas. Kindly unmute your mic and ask your question.
Yes, good morning. Please, we just want to make an inquiry concerning remote villages. So far, I think she has given some answers, but still want to be clarified. Like those in remote villages, how do we get to them? How can we do it to get to them? And secondly, please, a friend of mine, his phone is down and he's here watching with me. Is he okay? Like, and he still feel that that's through this platform that is watching through. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would like to call on Thomas from Kaduna. You can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, this morning.
Yes, please, we just want to know, though I think she has made a little clarification because now I'm going to ask for still like those in the remote villages, how do we get to them, concerning this program? And secondly, there is someone here watching with me, his phone is down. Is that a problem with that? Can he use the same phone to fill the form later? If that is okay.
Okay, all right. I'll be able to respond to the second question. Thank you. See you, man.
Should I answer those two questions?
Answer now. You can answer.
Okay. So with regards to Naji from Enugu State, right? You said, where can one start up from, or especially where do you start with no real funds? Like I mentioned, the example I gave, right? You can definitely, like I said, talk to, you can go around, go to schools. It also depends on the waste stream you want to focus on. So, for example, if you say, oh, you know what, if you're looking for the, and here this is another hack. If you're looking for the material that gives you the most money, it's probably iron or metals. Those are the ones that really. But I'll tell you that all those waste, I don't like to call them bola, all those waste pickers, okay, or recovery agents that you see around, they don't allow those things to drop on the ground before they pick them up. But if you have a confirmed way to get used beverage cans and things like that, that's where the real money is, right? That's where you can get a lot of money, to be honest. Plastic, you can still be collecting, maybe like, right now I buy at 130 per kilogram, but with metal, you can do almost 200 naira per kilogram, because that's something that is really needed, right? But if you just want to start where you are, for example, if you say, okay, I'm going to go to for paper, for example, or carton, you can go to schools, you can go to places at universities. Every end of all of you, or most of you must have passed out of the university of some sort. You can go to the university and say, after every session exam, what do they do after they've marked all those scripts, right? What do they pour them away? Or people's thesis, right? You find that they've thrown them away somewhere. You can go and talk to the university and say, look, is it possible to collect all this paper because this is harmful to the environment, right? So again, you just need to think smart about where you want to start with. And then there's nothing keeping you from moving. I could share this. When we first started, right, we were focused on plastic because I said, oh, plastic, it's on the landfill for 1,000 years, doesn't degrade, it's harmful to the environment. And then I'll go to hotels, I'll go to schools, and people say, madam, is it only plastic you're collecting? And then I had to quickly borrow myself some sense and say, no, we collect everything, right? So eventually you will see that you start to collect everything. It's just that I still made that conscious effort that we're going to focus on plastic, right? But we collect, in fact, we collect even sometimes food waste for my dogs, right? So again, it depends on, that's another area you can go to. If there are hotels around you and because we're talking about the 3 R's right now and waste to wealth or recycle economy. There's some people that's their way they make their money. They go to hotels and say, all this food that you're pouring away, don't pour it away. I want to be collecting. And then they talk to people who have dogs or who have kennels or whatever, or who are rearing dogs to say, this is good food for you or whatever. Let me supply you. And they make their cool money. So again, I want you guys to think outside the box. Don't just think, oh, this is the only way to go. E-waste is another thing that is good, right? Because they call it urban mining. So when you have all computers, all the motherboard, all the different electric or mineral, whatever that's inside it, people export those things. That is, instead of mining again, they're saying that's urban mining, so they can reuse them. You can make good money there. Batteries is another one that people are collecting. So a lot of people are now having solar, whatever, in their homes. Those inverter batteries, depending on their amps, right? It can be a lot of money. So again, you don't have to go to plastic necessarily, okay? You can go to any of these areas I've talked about, but do your research. I can't say it enough. Make sure you do your research and make sure you know how much they've been sold. Because even if I told you Abuja price now, for someone who's in Enugu, the price might be slightly different. So do your research for the area that you're in. And then for Thomas that talked about remote villages, again, the one thing that I can recommend, right, is really start where you are. Because the cost of fuel right now, I have some clients in Adamawa who supply me. They were all going to Lagos before, but now that to move a truck of PET, for example, is over 1.5 million. It's not easy. So they're looking for ways to reduce that amount, right? So if you want to say you want to jump into collection from villages, the most you can do, honestly, is to maybe put a receptacle there. You can build something and say, just be putting your waste here, and then when it's filled up, I'll come and evacuate. But if you say you want to be going to the remote villages every day to go and collect, you'll be bleeding money like you don't know what to do, because cost of logistics now is very, very high. it is very, very high. So I would say stay where you are, where you don't have to spend too much money until you sort of gain some weight first, and then you are steady before you say you want to solve the problem in the remote villages. But if you do decide that remote villages is where your calling is, build a receptacle there that people can be putting their waste. And then when you have critical mass, you can then send a truck to go and pick it up. And you know that you're not picking up just one bottle, you're picking up 5,000 bottles. Or, the other thing is that, if that village, remote village, is like a village that is surrounded by other remote villages, you can set up your business there and be collecting from all the remote villages, so that you now have a headquarters amongst the remote villages, right? There are different ways to think about it, but I would say for me, I decided not to go to remote villages because the money that I will use to be going to the villages will be too much. And I didn't have the strength then. But now we might even consider it. But there's more material. There's a lot of material even in the city centers and things like that we're mopping up, and we've not even finished those.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I think maybe I should just say this for those who are in Oyo State precisely, because some weeks back I had a meeting with an organization proposing to set up recycling hubs across different local governments. And what we have to do is to come up with a program for low-income communities, most especially these rural areas, and it's not just focus on the urban. So definitely, hopefully the program should be up in October. You can get to tap from that and get to benefit from that. And like she said, there is a lot of innovation process. There are a lot of things which you can do in line to waste circular economy. And you can even sit in your home. You can even have a software which is just providing information. Or I still remember someone sharing with me how they want to use Internet of Things, whereby they can get to track the amount of waste in each of these garbage, and even the waste collectors can know when your garbage is full, and when they don't just waste their fuel, and also contribute to the carbon emission, and easily they can pick up, and you can get to notify them. So there are a lot of things you can do in line to circular economy, in line to sustainable waste management. And over, you get to learn, you get to pick up experience. And I want to say this to the state, the lady that said she doesn't know what to do, getting to reach out to the government. The phase 2 of this project, we are going to give you an introduction letter for each and every state, whereby you can engage governments. You can engage. I always say it, no matter the level no matter who you are, or no matter the office, in as much as we are still in this Nigeria, we are going to engage each and every one, because it's a call, it's a call for everyone to be involved, and you can get to engage different stakeholders. So you don't have that fear. I understand the aspect of she seeing it as these people are not accessible, I can't reach out to them. Yeah, you can reach out to them because you have a solution in mind. And I am so glad that your solution does not exist. Yeah, you are contributing, you are solving a particular problem in your city. So we are also going to facilitate this process for you to make it easy, getting you to introduce your solution to them, and they getting to contribute to what you are doing. I think we'll just take the very last set of questions for today. Please, just like she promised, she will definitely, we still hope to have her on board later in all other series, most especially the Circular Innovation Bootcamp, and where we get to speak more about the business model, business canvas, and how you can get to have a very good pitch and get to pitch your innovation over and over again. So I will just call 3 more people, and while we round up this session and move on to the next. Yeah, let me start from Deborah. I would like to call ladies now. I have not had so much ladies speaking. Deborah, please, you can unmute your mic. Deborah Fasheyi from Lagos, you can unmute your mic and ask the question.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, and thank you so much, madam. An amazing session. So I would like to ask, although I've been doing some sort of research, so I to be sure that I'm doing the right thing. So I'm into fashion, right? And most of what I recycle are most Ankara, of course, pieces that we cut. And I have a ton, like a heap of them in my office space where most I'm using for Ankara, patchwork to make tote bags, earrings, souvenirs, and all of that. So now I was just trying to get more curious about what more can be done with this thing aside doing tote bags. I think I even cut out pieces to twist them like hair and place them to create dresses. But
Okay.
now I'm not asking what are the things I can research on that can open me to more opportunities for things I can do with more of fabric, of course, rather than just what I'm doing with it at the moment. And is there any book I need to read? I'm following around at the moment. Just so many other things I need to do so I can channel my research in the right place. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Can we have Oluwafunmilayo? Oluwafunmilayo, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Yeah, good morning. I'm really glad to be here. And I want to thank the facilitator, Miss MS Olufunto. Thank you very much. I've met you once in Abuja. So you answer one of my questions. Somebody asked about acquisition of machineries because it's kind of difficult. And I want to ask again that would you prefer or would you advise that someone who is going to recycling purchases his or her machinery in China or from Nigeria? Because I think we have some upcoming people working on producing machineries. Would you say they are reliable, or should one just go for the China ones? And then I want to ask about incentivizing the public, especially the household, the way the pets and the nylons. Can one come up with? Is there a room for having collaboration with beverage companies, whereby you give food instead of giving cash? That's my question. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm not taking it for granted.
Welcome. Can we have Bello Musa Yakubu from Kaduna as the last question for the session?
Okay. Good morning. Please, my question is just precisely, it's about the issue of, like for us in Kano, we have abundant of this waste product that we can recycle. But the problem is that what can we get? I mean, with what product can we get another product? I hope you understand what I'm saying. For example, we have, if we have plastic or papers, what are we going to use them for? I mean, how can we generate something out of them? You understand? And what are I want you to give me some examples, and also what are the machineries that can do all those kind of activities? These are what
Okay, thank you very much. These are very relating questions. Over to you, Ma.
Okay, sorry about this. Someone's trying to get a hold of me. Okay, so with I'm always super excited when I see women in this kind of space, because I think that we need more women. So to Deborah, Funmilayo, Fortune, and Khadija, again, I'm excited that you guys are here, and I hope that you do something, and all the other women, that you do something really serious about this moving on. So Deborah, your question about fashion, I think you're on the right track. That's one of the things that when we talk about circularity and circular economy with fashion, the low hanging fruit is what you're doing right now, which is, turning them into off-courts, making jackets, bespoke jackets out of them, accessories. There's some organizations now that need, there's a head of a company in Kaduna, for example, that until recently was importing textile waste. So I think that as we move along, there's going to be opportunity to actually return or rethread those materials into new fiber. But those things are going to cost a lot of money, right? The equipment that you're going to need is going to cost a lot of money. So again, for us, I say, stay where you are and get big and get known for what you're doing, right? You can also use it for stuffing, for chairs, for different things, right? Stay where you are, get known for it, and then look for people, either locally or internationally, that you can maybe, who are in this space, do a lot of research, right? And then reach out to some of them and say, oh, I'd love to maybe partner with you. I'm following your business model. Some people turn them into sneakers, into shoes, Again, pick your poison. So I had a friend who her niche was using leftover off-cuts to do shoe and bag match for parties and whatever. So again, you just choose your lane, right? And you really focus on it. And then you can find people that you can partner with either locally or internationally with those big machines, right? That you can get where you want to go to. In terms of familiar with machineries, for me, I'm slightly biased because again, at the end of the day, and this is what I'm encouraging everybody, I want us to grow our indigenous manufacturing businesses and, our, all the engineers in the room. I want us to be able to build machines and equipment that can work. I'm not sure that we're really there yet. So for me, because I need to be able to pay salaries and, pay for electricity bill and the like, I'm buying machines from China at the moment. But, China machine compared to even European machine is like, night and day. So my eventual aim is to be able to get a machinery from Europe, right? Barring the time where we can, our local engineers can get up to speed. And so if you want to spend money and be able to get returns immediately, I would say either look for people who've imported from China, or you get your equipment from China. I wouldn't do anybody building for you in Nigeria yet, because based on my own experience, and it's not experience for everybody, I spent a lot more time trying to fix than to even use the machines. And then Bello Musa from Kaduna, what can you turn them into? So again, for us, we turn the plastic, right? We work with people who turn the plastic into buckets, into bowls, into new nylon bags, into poly bags, into fiber for t-shirts, unfortunately, I'm working from inside my room, but anybody that, anytime I go around, I show people duvets that, from the fiber that they made from PET, right? They made duvets or blankets, right, from the fiber. So there's so many things you can make it from. Clamshells for sandwich, right? You can make that from plastic. So that's an example. For paper, for example, people are turning into new textbooks, new notebooks, tissue paper, serviette paper. That's really what a lot of people are using old paper to do. For carton, they're making it into new carton, okay? For cans, they're making nails, they're making, rods from, the metals, right? They're making pots. All these spoons that you use, when you go and buy akara in the morning maybe, and those big spoons, all those things are locally made from metals that people are collecting. What other material? Those are just the ones that jump out to me right now. So even for pure water, we turn pure water into pellets. And we have people who are turning those into, again, nylon bags, right? New nylon bags. The covers of these things is PP, either PP or HDP. I don't know if you can see the cover of these bottles. I make them into pellets as well. And the people that buy from me, I can't even meet demand. The people that buy from me, they're turning into buckets, bowls, cups, plastic cups. Those packers, when you sweep, those packers that they used to pack the dirt, all those things, there's so many different things. As long as you have the mold, and you can melt, you have a machine that can melt down this material, this HDP or PP, you can turn that plastic, recycled plastic, into anything, really. The one that would even shock you guys is that, I don't know if you guys knew that our lower denominator notes are made out of polymer. So your 5 naira, 10 naira is actually made out of plastic. So a while back, this was maybe a few years back, CBN, right now, I think they burned them, and they had called us and said, oh, we want to see what we can turn this thing into. And so my team and I decided we're going to do some experiment locally, and we're able to get pellets that we then turned into buckets. We were able to turn them into buckets. So even old notes, the only reason why we didn't go forward with CBN was because at that point in time, the money that they had said, oh, you would also have to go and pick from all our branches and everything. And the money they wanted us to pay and then add on top of it, transportation just did not make it a viable business proposition for us. So we didn't go ahead with the project. But I'm just using that as an example. So even polymer, and guys, please, I can't say it enough. You need to research, go online. I don't want people to just be watching BBN Nigeria or whatever it is that people are watching. Do research online. Google is your best friend. I'm telling you, Google is your best friend. There's nothing I'm telling you, there's sometimes I don't know things, and I'll just go online and just see someone mention something. I'll just make a note and say, Funto, go and research that afterwards. And I go and I research it afterwards to just make sure that, I become a bit slightly knowledgeable. So please, there's so many things that you can Google online that will tell you. I don't know how many of you are using AI, ChatGPT. Go on ChatGPT and just type in what is recycling, and it will spit out information for you. And there's some words that they might come up with that you don't know, that you can go and do further research. But please, me, I'm a daughter of 2 professors, so reading and research is part of who I am and what I do. And I'll encourage everybody, please don't waste your credit on just watching Yama Yama on TV or on your phone. Make sure that it's something that can generate money for you. Please, I'm begging you. And then finally, I want to say, I was so blown away a while back by some, I want to quickly talk about technology because Emmanuel mentioned it. There was a young lady a while back in one of these things that I was a judge in, that they were using drones to, and then the way they did the thing, the drones were spotting if it was a Coke bottle or a whatever Nestle bottle from the labels. You guys can think, you guys are young, me, I'm even too old, but you guys are young. You guys can, think about how you want to use technology to change the face of this sector. So Internet of Things, like Emmanuel mentioned, AI, these are all ways that you can start thinking about ways to sort of use technology to drive the sector. And then please, my final thing I'm going to say, I'm so super excited because I'm seeing a lot of names and numbers being shared in the chat box. Please, again, like I said, a minimum of 18 names. You should go away with a minimum, and follow each other on Instagram, on Facebook, or LinkedIn. If any of you don't have LinkedIn here, go and create your LinkedIn profile, because that is the way to be professional and to link with people internationally. But make sure that you at least follow 18 people or get 18 people's information here. Share yours, pick other people's own, and make sure that you connect with them. I'm seeing a lot of people saying, no, let's collaborate. I'm in Enugu, I'm in Abuja, I'm in Kaduna. Please find ways to collaborate together. Even if it's to do a program, you want to go to do a sensitization program in a school, you only have 50,000 naira. But the thing is going to cost 500,000 naira. Find 10 of you together and do the program and put all your names on the flyer, and then use it to the people that was wondering about how do I get in touch with the government officials. You now invite them and say, come and see what we're doing in our community, or invite them as special guests to come and talk. Those are some of the hacks that you can do to get work done, but get your name out there. By the time 5 of you or 10 of you come and you shake the hand of the commissioner and you say, sir, yes, we're the ones that did this program in this school, yada, yada, yada. Again, you are making yourself known. Initially, you might have to be the one to reach out to them. But if you make yourself known well enough, I promise you that they will start looking for you. Okay? And that's just the way of life. So again, on that note, thank you guys so much. I'm actually slightly over my time and my phone is ringing off the hook because I need to join another meeting. But I hope this was very useful for all of you. I hope you've learned, taken 1 or 2 things. I promise, like I said, I'm going to share the deck with you, with Emmanuel. He can share with you guys. And if you have any questions, even after the fact, just share with Emmanuel, and Emmanuel knows how to get a hold of me. And as much as possible, I'll try to respond to all of them and then get that back to you guys. Again, thank you so much. Please, let's just make sure that we continue to be sustainable, continue to be green. Let's make sure that we continue to do the right thing. And please, each and every one of us, we have the responsibility of making sure that we're part of the solution and not part of the problem. So don't throw trash on the ground. When you see people doing it, be an ambassador and talk to them. And God bless everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this wonderful and enlightening session. Please, let's celebrate her. Let's celebrate her in the comment section. I want to see each and everyone celebrating her before she leaves. This has been so fun and so engaging. I know that we'll forever remember these things we shared. Yeah, each and everyone on this call, they will forever remember. And we are so grateful for this time you've shared with us. And I know, despite your very busy schedule, you were able to create a time to attend to this. We appreciate your passion and the great works and amazing work you are doing. Many people I know they are still going to come and get to engage with you, follow you on LinkedIn. And I always say that you don't need to see someone physically before they can be your mentor. You can study them, look at the courses they've taken, look at their engagement, look at the platforms they belong to, and you can also emulate that and check for the books they've read. I know these are things that is going to transform you. So please engage with her, feel free with and engage on our platform, and you get to learn a lot of things. Thank you so much. On behalf of the organization, ADEV African and SCSN Nigeria, we want to say a very big thank you for this wonderful session you've led, and we look forward to having you over and over again. At this point, I would just like to, you can excuse and
Thank you.
continue
Thank you, everybody.
for the day. Okay, dear participants, we believe it's been a great value for your time, and it's been an impactful session indeed. And right about now, we are going to be having our second session, and this is going to be another transformative session whereby we get to learn more in depth about circular economy, responsible consumption and production as it relates to the SDGs. And we are also blessed to have a seasoned speaker in our midst today, as she's going to be leading these aspects in person of Miss Deborah Edward, and she's currently immersed in the art of circular economy movement, and she plays a pivotal role in promoting sustainable practices, advocating for resource efficiency, and fostering innovation. And she works with Circular Economy Innovation Partnership, which revolves around building strong connection among stakeholders, from visionary startups to industry leaders, with the ultimate goal of accelerating the transition to a circular and regenerative economy. Thank you for joining this morning. Good morning, Ms. Deborah.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Emmanuel. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, that's awesome. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to join and as well facilitate this session today. I quite learned a lot from the last speaker. That's the speaker that spoke before me. It's fantastic, the opportunities that in circular economy. Okay, so I asked for permission to share my screen and then we just get started.
Yes, you can share your
screen. Okay, so once again, good morning, everyone. Like I said, my name is Deborah Edward. The session I'll be taking today is Circular Economy, Responsible Production and Consumption. And hearing the last speaker speak about some things, I'm sure that by now, you'll probably be familiar with what circular economy is. So I'll just run you through a couple of things we'll be doing today. No knowledge is ever wasted, so you'll learn again what circular economy is, the basics of circular economy, what the benefits of circular economy are, what production is, what consumption is, and the need for behavioral change. So those are the aspects or the areas that we'll be touching on today. So to kick off this session, we're going to watch a quick video. I think it's about 3 minutes that just talks about what circular economy is. So I find that it's interesting to mix and match, so I don't get to talk the entire time, and then you get to engage with different materials rather than just having one straight talk, which can be tiring for some people. So let's just watch this.
Climate change is a given. For decades, our booming consumption of natural resources and the use of raw materials.
So just to confirm, can you hear clearly?
Yes, we can hear it clearly.
Okay, awesome.
Materials are on a dangerous and unsustainable track. The Earth's ecosystems have started to show signs of serious stress. Climate change, biodiversity losses, or land degradation are just some examples. Human activity cannot continue on the same pathway in a linear economy. In short, the linear model that became dominant after the first industrial revolution is not sustainable, and we are using more resources than we and the planet can regenerate. The necessity to conserve Earth's resources seems to have been lost. There's no denying the benefits in terms of unparalleled variety and consumer choice. But there's now general consensus that change is needed to avoid permanent damage to the planet and its limited resources. The circular economy is said to be a solution and an opportunity to provide better services to consumers, while also tackling core sustainability challenges, resource scarcity, and environmental degradation. In a circular economy, raw materials are used efficiently and for as long as possible. When material and product loops are closed, raw materials can carry on being reused. In the best case, no further sourcing of raw materials needs to happen anymore. This benefits both the environment and the economy. Circular economy supports sustainable development by aiming to secure the resources to sustain our current and future generations. This is achieved by minimizing resource inputs and waste, emission, and energy leakage of products over time using 4 distinct strategies: narrowing, closing, slowing, and regenerating resource loops. These strategies are outlined as narrowing, decreasing material and energy use per product; closing, ensuring both production material and resources and the finished product can be and are recycled; slowing, consuming less and using products for longer over time; regenerating, cleaner loops and organizations contributing to leaving the environment in a better state than how it was found. The different circular strategies present promising opportunities to build more resilient economies and societies, and organizations are already applying these strategies. For example, an organization has developed a process that is sustainable, biodegradable, and chemical-free. The idea is to avoid plastic and use agricultural residues to make sustainable products, such as disposable tableware. The residues are turned into self-binding fibers that do not require massive use of chemicals and water, creating a concept that can be applied almost everywhere. Another example for a circular strategy is the one of Kalundborg, a city in Denmark. The Kalundborg Eco-Industrial Park is an industrial symbiosis network in which companies in the region collaborate to use each other's byproducts and otherwise share resources. Whatever definition you choose, a circular economy is the alternative to the linear economic system that still predominates. Circularity offers a win-win situation with potential benefits and rewards at many levels. Circular solutions open the access to new markets, and value is created through potential new circular products and services. Services that often also generate higher margins in comparison to resource-heavy offerings. Circular economy is a way of being ahead of the curve, avoiding future regulatory pressure, reducing regulatory risks, and increasing the trust of consumers and business partners. And it is a chance to keep up with general sustainability trends and requirements and become a front runner in a globally growing market.
Okay, so yeah, welcome back from that short break. Okay, so I'll just get started today. Why I shared that video is sort of like an introduction, and it like covers a lot of the things I'll be sharing, but I'll try my best to share them like more in-depthly than that has done. That was like 3 minutes, and then we have like an hour. So yes, what is circular economy? Circular economy is basically a model of production and consumption, which involves sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, republishing, recycling different materials to ensure that products are kept for as long as possible. So let me break it down because it's quite a mouthful. So it's a model of production and consumption. What do you do with production? You make goods and services from materials that have been extracted either from the land, sea, or air. What is consumption? You take these materials and you utilize them in your daily activities, say in terms of foods that we eat, clothes that we put on, or services that we engage in. And now, why is it different from the linear method? Now, in the linear method, typically, when you want to produce, you take things from the environment, you make other objects out of them, and then once you are done using them, you often dispose of them. But circular economy now comes to say that rather than taking things, making them, and then wasting them, why don't you add another step into the journey? Why don't you introduce something such as sharing? So rather than take, make, and waste, take, make, share with other people, and then we can discuss what happens to it at the end of that journey. Okay, you don't want to share with people, you bought it for a lot of money. What else can you use it for? You can lease that particular item. How do you lease that particular item? You give it out to other people to come use it for particular sums of money. An example that I give of this is, I use event management a lot. You find that those people who do catering most of the time, when they are when you are starting out and you don't have the money or resource to buy all the equipment that you need, what you typically do is that you lease. We call it renting. So you rent these items for a sum of money, and then once you are done with the item, you return it to the owner. And what you're doing there is you are practicing circular economy on the scale of consumption. Why? Because you are taking that particular item, loaning it for a period of time, and then returning it, because you know that you do not use it sort of like every day. You only use it once in a while. Circular economy still begs you to say, okay, let's go a step further. Instead of buying something and then throwing it out almost immediately, how can I reuse this thing over and over again? You've reused it over and over again to a certain point and it gets spoiled. How can you repair this item so that you don't waste it almost immediately? Typical example is our phones. Most of the time when our phones encounter damage, probably the earpiece is damaged, the mouthpiece is damaged, we typically take it to repair people who help us to repair those areas that have gone bad. So in those ways, we're actually practicing circular economy. Refurbishing. I don't know if any of us has ever gotten a phone that was refurbished, a couch that was refurbished. That is furniture in your house. You know the furnitures in your house can be refurbished. And I know that someone asked a question about textile waste. I know a lot of people that refurbish furnitures and then lifestyle products that can be in homes for a token, using materials that people would typically consider as waste. Even as far as, say, our generators can be refurbished. So you have a generator and probably the engine is the only thing that is good. There are opportunities for you to get the casing, the entire the other parts of that particular generator, and then have it refurbished for you, instead of generally just wasting it or giving it to people that would typically take it and then probably construct something with it, because it is still useful at that point in time, and then recycling. So basically in circular economy, when you're looking at it from the production and consumption standpoint, there are so many things you can do with that particular item rather than just getting to the final point of wasting it. Now, a lot of times I find people say that, oh, circular economy is recycling. No, it's not recycling. As much as possible, circular economy involves other processes before you even get to recycling. So that is one of the things I wanted to just point out there. It's not only recycling that is involved. Rather, in circular economy, you are looking for how you can eliminate waste completely, how you can design out waste. That is, how can you take products, make them in such a way that people keep using them for as long as possible. Now, very quickly, let's look at why is circular economy important? Why is it important? And it's important for so many reasons. It's important for environmental reasons, economic reasons, and social reasons. Let's look at one reason: new business opportunity. There are so many opportunities in circular economy. Why? The other lady talked about something called collaboration and partnership. You meet a lot of people in this space today, and then you have the opportunity to say, I have this idea in my mind. I'm not necessarily an engineer. Could you come and help me look at it from an engineer standpoint and see what we can build and make out of this? In that regard, you will begin to engage another individual in that process, and you create a new business opportunity that someone may have not thought of before. Another thing is circular economy looks at problems and says, how can we solve them? And in solving problems, you find numerous business opportunities lying in that particular space. A lot of people think, oh, circular economy is just about impact. Yes, it's about impact, but a lot of times it's also about business. It's also about how can you, make the highest value using products and ensuring that there is no waste in them. Also, why is circular economy important? Minimizing resource depletion. A lot of our activities, manufacturing activities, they actually affect the environment. And this is not new. I'm hoping it's not new, at least to us. We've been hearing this a lot. When we take a lot of things from the environment, when we are not conscious of how our production processes affect the environment or nature, we tend to do things in a very, very insensitive manner. Circular economy tells you don't do it in an insensitive manner. Rather, consider all the options. Consider what happens if you choose to use a generator to power your business as opposed to using maybe a solar panel. Consider what happens if you have to travel many miles or import things via air. What happens to your carbon footprint as opposed to using local resources? So circular economy asks you to say, okay, what are the options that I can take other than just doing it the way it has always been done? And how does these processes help to minimize resource depletion? Then we also have energy efficiency. I had mentioned, of course, you could say, okay, you don't want to power your business by generator. It's more resource efficient for you to say, okay, let me use a solar panel. But beyond that, energy efficiency, a lot of times it takes a lot more power to produce a new item than it is to produce something from something that has existed before. For example, I found out recently that it takes probably just 5% more power to transform something from aluminium into something else than it takes to process the aluminium fresh from the earth. A lot of times you'll find it's easier to repair your outfits than to go sew a whole new outfit entirely. When you consider it from this point of view, you'll find that you are being energy efficient. So instead of making things always from scratch, you can repurpose materials, you can recycle materials, you can utilize materials in a different way and reduce the amount of energy that is used in the production process. Increased innovation and reduced cost. Circular economy begs you to be innovative, begs you to be creative. Like I mentioned earlier, you have the opportunity to meet new people and then join ideas together. And over time, what happens is if your innovation makes a lot of sense and actually solves the problem, and people begin to adopt those innovative ideas and solutions, it tends to reduce cost. That is over time, because we have to be frank as well. In the initial stage, it looks more expensive. Why? Because there's not a lot of adoption by people, because not a lot of people know what circular economy is or fancy using recycled products or products that have been made from other materials. So in this particular process, it looks more expensive. But what happens when you've been able to sensitize people to say that this is much more sustainable than this one, choose this one, and this is how it affects your environment for better? What happens is you have more demand. And when you have more demand, your cost tends to reduce. So the amount of money you spend in producing reduces because you're producing for a large number of people rather than a limited number of people. You also create job opportunities. So by deciding that you're going to build something or you're going to create something, you begin to engage people. You engage people down to not just engineers or technical people, you engage people down to admin officers, operations people, you engage people in marketing, in sales, and so on and so forth. So what you are able to do is you create job opportunity, which often lies on the fact that you are creating new innovative ideas. So job opportunities begin to come out and they are endless. You also create opportunities for volunteering, for people to come see your work. You also create tourist attraction, because one of the things we found is that because your innovative idea is new, you have the opportunity to say, people come and see what I am doing. So you have opportunities to exhibit what you are doing or showcase the solutions that you are providing. And then most importantly, circular economy helps in improving community well-being. Over time, production activity tend to affect the health of humans. It tends to affect our ability to survive long term. But by the time we begin to look at how we can be resource efficient, how we can reduce the amount of waste that we generate, how we can begin to use things more than less, we're able to improve the quality of life of everyone around us, everyone in our community. And that, I feel, is the goal that we should be pursuing at this point in time. Now, we've talked about what the benefits are, we've talked about what circular economy is, but then what are the key principles of circular economy? So it means that if I am a novice, for example, if I don't know anything at all, what are some of the things I can begin to look out for to say that, yes, my business is practicing circular economy, or yes, indeed, this country has been able to adopt circular economy, or yes, what we are doing is actually circular economy. One of the first things that I like to note is design. In circular economy, you've seen I've talked a lot, and it's usually about design. How do you design the products and services to be long-lasting and durable? How do you design your products and services to resist wear and tear? How can you keep them for longer? That's one of the things you begin to think about in creating solution. I had someone ask a question about how can we, like, what kind of ideas can we come up with? It's very easy to come up with ideas to a certain degree if you're able to keep asking the question, why and how? Why is this thing not working and how can it work? And a lot of times you have to ask that question over and over again, do a couple of research to find out if that is actually indeed what is needed, because we don't want a situation where your solution is causing a problem for other people. So I found that sometimes you say you want to solve a problem, but you invariably cause another problem as a result. So the circular economy, you say, okay, how do I design so that this thing lasts very long and is durable? A lot of people don't even know that houses, for example, that you're building, they actually have lifespans. They have lifespans. If you've seen a construction site, those big construction sites, you'll find that the workers oftentimes tend to stay close to the area where they're working. And they often construct temporary makeshift houses. Sometimes they use containers, those aluminum containers or shipping containers, to construct the areas where they would stay while they are building long projects. Those type of items or those type of houses or shelters that are created oftentimes are designed for a specific period of time. And then once they're done with it, they either utilize it in another site or they take it and use it to do something else. Those particular designs, even if they are designed for short term, there is a plan in mind to say, once we're done with this particular thing in this space, what are we going to use it for next? So those are some of the things you have to consider in circular economy. Then resource efficiency. How can I utilize materials? How can I utilize energy? How can I utilize even water to ensure that I minimize waste? And then I also am able to help in terms of environmental impact. We also have circular business model. There are a lot of circular business models. I think there are about 5. But the basic one that's very easy to understand is you begin to prioritize service-based business. So even if you have a business, so let's give a practical example instead of what we say in business. So let's say I bought a car, because this one is very common now. I bought a car and I have this car in my apartment. Yes. And then instead of me saying, oh, I just take my family to church and go to work with the car, which is often the things we do, we have apps that you can sign up to and say, I want to carpool. So I want to offer rides to people and then they pay me. And then I get money out of it that also allows me, maintain my car for a period of time. In that regard, what you're doing is you're sharing that product, that particular product, that's the car, with other people for a particular period of time and getting money out of it. That is one typical scenario of a circular business model. The other one can be the event management setup I told you about, or the catering setup I told you about, where you rent the items that you use, plastic chairs, sometimes you rent canopies or tents. Or even better still, we have event centers that have come up that have all those things in it, and you just pay for a short period of time, use that space, and then you can leave instead of looking for what else you could do or looking for where else you could go to get that kind of service. So there are a lot of circular business models, or a lot of ways you could utilize circular business models to say, okay, this is actually me practicing circular economy, or one of the principles of circular economy. Waste reduction. This is very, very important. In fact, top of the list when it comes to circular economy. How can you reduce waste as much as possible? So when you say waste reduction, most times we tend to think, oh, we've gotten the product, then okay, so we bought a pack of food now, or let's even use snacks. We bought the snacks, it's finished, and then we throw away the nylons that came with the snack. Instead of thinking, how can we do better with that? That's just one angle. The question about waste reduction starts from the very beginning, when they are producing that particular item. What goes into the production process? How much flour do they use? How much energy do they use? How much water do they use in those particular systems? They look mind-boggling, but they're actually very simple. How can you calculate how much items you use in terms of how far did you have to go to get this resource? And then does it really make sense for you to go that far to get this particular resource that you need, rather than getting it from somewhere close to you? So throughout the entire life cycle of production, you have to think, how can I reduce waste along those parts? Regenerate nature. We can't talk about circular economy without talking about nature. Reason being that there are a lot of things that circular economy learns from nature. Nature often operates a closed loop system. A very easy example of a closed loop system is we have trees in nature. Now, the trees and the plants, they get nutrient from the soil, which helps them to grow. During the change in season, those trees shed their leaves. Their leaves fall back into the soil. Now, there are bacterials and microorganisms that then work on those leaves that have dried and are falling back into the soil and make them into nutrients that the same tree or other trees around that area can take up the nutrients and begin the whole process all over again. So you have the soil, you have the plant, you have the sheddings from the soil, you have the organisms that utilize, some processes, make this thing into compost, it's utilized by the soil again, and then the tree utilizes it all over again. Constantly thinking about it from a circular standpoint. How does this apply in real life situation? A nice example I like to give is a company that makes things out of coconut. For example, you use coconut, you have the shell, you have the husk, you have the fruit inside, and you have so much that you can do with it. For the shell, this particular company would say, oh, you make fire starters. I'll give you not the shell, rather the husk. I'll give you the husk that is here, and then you use it to make your fire starters. For the shell, I'll give it to someone who is interested in fashion and makes items or fashionable items from shells. There's a company that does that, Knitmeth. They make sustainable fashion items, design pieces that you can wear to events, occasions without looking awkward. It doesn't look awkward at all because they've been able to say, how can we make this thing better? How can we make it more attractive to people? And then they make these things out of coconut shells and other materials. Then for the coconut itself, which is probably the major thing that you, the company owner or the coconut company utilizes, they make that the fruit itself, they break it down and say, okay, we can get coconut oil out of this, we can get coconut flour out of this, we can get coconut milk out of this, and we can also make our coconut bars, which is our main item, out of this. In that particular setup, they've been able to think about it from a standpoint to say every single aspect of that coconut, we're able to use it. We're able to use it to create something of value to other people. So nothing essentially is wasted. So now, other businesses may not have the same setup, but it's important to start thinking about it from that angle. And when you're able to think about it from that angle, you don't necessarily have to do every single thing, but you begin to do what? You begin to collaborate, because you remember circular economy encourages collaboration. You begin to think of innovation. What innovative way can I utilize this? Is there a simpler process? Is there a smarter way to do this? Those are things you begin to think about in your own processes. And then customer awareness and engagement. It's very important. So it's not enough to say that I produce items. It's important to also say that I'm able to encourage or educate my consumers to choose these items over another. I'm able to say, these are the benefits of circular economy. Choose this and do not do this instead. So it's important that all businesses that are coming up today, even the ones that are existing, begin to refine their process and say, we want to do more of consumer awareness and engagement. So in summary, circular economy is based on 3 principles. So everything I told you about the principles, if you want to remember it easily, you could just think of it like this. Eliminate waste and pollution. That is, as much as possible, no waste, no pollution. Circulate products and materials at their highest value. How can I keep these things running at the highest value possible so that it doesn't get spoiled? And even if it's no longer useful, how can those things that are no longer useful be used as raw materials for other processes? And then regenerate nature. What can I learn from nature? How can I also preserve nature? So those, in summary, are the 3 principles that I would say circular economy is driven by. And all these things start from the design. So it's not just when you are done with the product, you start thinking about it. You start thinking about it from the design. So we're going to quickly do something. So we're going to talk about it. So I've talked a lot, but now I want to quickly hear you. Is it really possible to design out waste and pollution? So what if waste and pollution were never created in the first place? So I need somebody, okay, I'll just do 2 people who can think of their feet and share an example that they think eliminates waste and pollution. What example can you give? So I gave the example of the coconut shell and all that. But for you, what example can you think of? It can be something that is fictional, doesn't exist yet, because yes, you are allowed to conceptualize. It can be something you've seen already existing, but I need two people who will be willing to give us quick examples. Okay, someone's raising their hand. Scholastical. Okay, you can unmute your mic. Scholastical, let's have you first. Your example. Okay. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your lecture all the time. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have an idea of something that can eliminate pollution and waste. It is something that is already in existence actually, and is the use of solar. I actually admire the use of solar a lot. That's making use of solar panels to generate electricity and the rest. It actually does not give room to any single pollution, and it produces absolutely no waste. It doesn't harm the environment in any way. While there is sunlight, aiding photosynthesis, aiding germination of plants, keeping the environment warm, ensuring evaporation, at the same time generating energy. That is doing so many things at the same time while providing absolutely no pollutants and also absolutely no waste. It's really an idea I admire so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Scholastical. That was really interesting. Okay, so yes, solar panels. And I like the way you were able to break down all the aspects of how solar panel is very useful. Though some people might disagree with you to some extent, but then I'm so proud of the example that you gave. Let's call another person. So I see like 8 people's hands up. Let's have David, so that we are gender balanced. Let's have David. David, please, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. The session has been very impactful. The example of a waste, the kind of example that I have is this project that I worked on. It was a waste to energy project. So in the waste to energy project, waste is used to produce electricity. And how does that come about? The waste is actually combusted in a furnace, but even before the combustion process, the waste are first sorted out, like right from the collection stage. So we have paper waste separated, we have e-waste separated, we have recyclable waste separated as well, plastics and the rest. So the bulk of the GMW, general municipal waste that is to be burned, is now taken to the furnace and then combusted. And then the heat now turns turbines that then provide electricity. But it doesn't just end there. A lot of waste products would come about as a result of this process, but each of those waste products are still very useful. For example, the soot that is formed, we all know that if you are burning any stuff, we have this kind of very light soot that rises up, blackish. So that soot is used to manufacture pencils. It's actually the lead that we use to write. It's used for pencil manufacture. The heat that is going to be generated from that plant is passed through chillers and then can be distributed as air conditioning. The residue of the burnt waste itself, the residue of the burnt waste, that's the major mass of the burnt waste residue, can be used to produce asphalt for road grading. And then there is a whole lot of other uses too. The charcoal that is produced can be used to make toothpaste, kind of, for oral hygiene. So yeah, so I was opportune to see a test run of that project. So that's the example that I can give. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David. That was fantastic. I really like the example. I like the fact that you were able to break down the different aspects and the fact that even while this is solving a problem, there are other waste residues that would supposedly come out of it and how those materials were used. Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay, I'm just trying to mute because I was hearing an echo. Okay, so thank you for that. So I like the examples that were given. Both of them are focused so much on energy. So it means that yes, a lot of work is being done in the energy sector as to how waste can be, as to how waste and pollution can sort of never be created in the first place. So because the two examples given were in the energy sector, I don't know if anyone has an example that is not energy related, and then we'll have that and move to the next question. Does anyone, if you're raising your hands, please have a different example entirely so that we take that very quickly. Okay. So let's see Ruth. Ruth from Cross River. Can we have you, please? Okay. Okay, I don't think Ruth is unmuting. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, I've unmute. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay, good morning, Ma. Good morning, everyone. Okay, mine is not, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, it's not really a question, but I want to find out from the opening session we had yesterday that you can be watching the program after the live stream. We can be watching it on YouTube. So after yesterday opening ceremony or session, I tried to go back to study it again in case for the places or the area at missed. So I couldn't find it on YouTube as was said. So can we have it on YouTube after every session?
Okay, so thank you so much for pointing that out, Ruth. So I'm very sure that the technical team will sort that out so that you can have the sessions accessible to you on YouTube.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to move to the next question. If you have answers for this particular one, hold it because it would apply to the next thing that we're moving to. So the next one is, how can we circulate materials at their highest value? How can we circulate materials at their highest value? So the second principle I mentioned was the ability to circulate materials and products at the highest value. And what this means basically is that you are able to keep materials in use for as long as possible. Or in a situation where particular products cannot be used, they can be taken apart and used to make components, or they can be used to make components for another product or the raw materials to start another product. Now, so this is the question now. I need you to think on your feet. Those people raising their hands, you've not started thinking. I need you to think on your feet. You can pick a business or a product. You could pick a business or a product, and you could tell me how you think that particular product can be utilized at its highest value. So it means that if you're sharing your answer with me, you take the product and say, this is my product. Say, let me say a tripod stand, because that's what I can see in front of me. So you take a tripod stand and say, this is my particular product. It's a tripod stand. And this is how I feel that my products can be circulated at the highest value. That is what happens production, what happens when the user is utilizing the material, what happens when I am tired of using that particular tripod stand. You factored all these things in your example, and that's how you're sharing it with us. So let's see. We have 5 people. We'll take 3. We'll take 3 very quickly. And so we have Alex. Alex, could you go? Okay, Alex is not available. We have Bello from Abuja. Can we have you? Wow. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, all right. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. My question goes like this. What is the environmental?
Okay, so let me cut you at this point. Sorry, hold on. Hold on, Bello. I think it's Bello that is talking.
This recycling, because you find that
Okay, hello everyone. So I want to clarify quickly what we're doing. So we've not gotten to the question and answer section of this presentation. We've not finished the session. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get you to begin to think about examples in your environment.
So examples around you. And so I think this time I would say if we have entrepreneurs in the house, or we have people who are, thinking about a new product and service, you could actually share with us the steps that, okay, this particular product, this is how you circulate it at its highest value. So right now we're just doing an interaction, so an exchange of ideas as to what you are thinking about what I've shared so far. So the time you can ask your questions, just take note of the questions you have, maybe around anything we've said. There'll be a proper time at the end where you can share those questions and then we offer answers to them. I hope I've been able to communicate. So we don't have people asking questions. Yes, I will be obliged to answer, but then it defeats the purpose of this particular thing we're trying to do at the moment. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's have Blessing. Blessing from Lagos. Okay, Blessing is not available.
I am available. Good morning, everyone. I've been trying to unmute myself. Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so the idea I have is because I work in the packaging industry, where I work with businesses to, and use recyclable materials. I'm going to use a care company who has purchased recyclable plastic bottles for their lotion, So the first point that I believe that they could, push the idea of a circular economy is in encouraging their customers to, recycle or bring back the items once the products have run out, back into the business. And then they'll have this cleanup process using chemicals to basically wash the bottles and reuse it to filling it up with new products and sending it back to the customers. Either they have a point-based system for that return, or they have some kind of reward, for their customers who bring in back their bottle. Either it's a discount for, to get a new product and all of that. And if that cycle continues for, say, 3 times or 4 times, depending on what the business decides, right? They can convert those plastic bottles to, this is something I saw online, I think on YouTube, where they compress plastic bottles into building blocks. It was really fascinating, right? And then those building blocks then go on to be used as mini houses for the homeless people. So the technology, I don't think I've seen it here in the country, in Nigeria, and it was really fascinating, to me that, okay, what if we tried this out, partnering with, waste recycling companies in the country where they can compress these plastic bottles and then use them as building blocks to provide housing for the homeless. So that's the idea I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blessing, for sharing that with us. And that was a very wonderful one. You have a company that makes creams or lotions, and then they use their plastic. So the customer typically uses the product. When you're done, you return it to the company, and then they can either reuse it for new products, or at the end of the day, have it as a resource for those who make blocks. So yes, there are actually companies in Nigeria that make plastic bricks out of plastic materials. There's one in Abuja, Eco Brick. They make bricks that you could use to build houses, and I think they've won a couple of awards. Or you could use them as interlocking tiles for your compound outside. So that is actually a very wonderful idea. So let's have someone else. Let's see, Mohammed, could you go next? Okay, so if you don't unmute quickly, I'll move to the next person. Let's have audio, yeah. Festus from Edo State. Can we have you?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My idea of recycling is plastic and these glass bottles. I think I was opportune to work with a Nigeria bottling company, and I saw how they recycle their waste products. In fact, non-product is useless. You see, those plastic crates, when they are broken, they have a machine that grinds it. Then they sold it back to Frigo Glass. They bought it and we use it to do fresh crates. See those bottles, no matter the color, either green, white, they grind those bottles. And truck will come and evacuate those bottles and they'll be used to reproduce another bottles. So I've also seen where some persons use it to screed their house. So you have a machine, grind the bottles, mix it with some chemical, use it to screed your house. There's no need for painting. In fact, when the sun is reflecting on the wall, it will be shining and glittering. So if people can have this idea, I ask myself, why can't we do it? You know, all the gutters and the dump site, they are all littered with plastic. So it's an opportunity. You know, someone can pick it up from there and recycle these things. So that's my idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So you're talking, yes, thank you so much for sharing that with us. The plastic crates that are broken and then they can be shredded back and utilized again in making fresh plastic crates. Thank you. So Mohammed, I think you unmuted at a point. So let me just give you the opportunity to say what you wanted to say that time. And then we move very quickly to the next question. That's the final one in this. Let's talk it out. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so while we wait for Mohammed to unmute, so there's an example that I want to give about this, and it's a company that is actually in existence at the moment. So the company is called QuadLoop. I was going to introduce the company when I'm giving you more examples of businesses that are already practicing sustainable production. So QuadLoop now, as an organization, does something around sort of like renewable energy. Now, what they do is, there's so many spaces. That's something I've discovered about circular economy innovation. You can actually fit into so many spaces. So you could fit into something that does waste management. You could fit into tech, and you could also fit into renewable energy. And that's sort of like what the QuadLoop has been able to do. So QuadLoop makes solar panels and lights. So solar panel systems from recycled materials. Let me take that again. QuadLoop makes solar panels from recycled materials. And how they've been able to do this is they have a partnership with a company that takes e-waste. So e-waste is your electronic devices that have been utilized to the point where you can no longer use them, and then they are decoupled, they are separated into the different aspects. And e-waste has so many aspects. So there's e-waste that is plastic, there's e-waste that is metal, there's e-waste that you probably cannot use anymore, the motherboard, the computation. There are so many aspects of e-waste, like when you begin to deconstruct the electronic devices that you have. So this particular company that's their partner, Hickley, they specialize in collecting e-waste from other companies, associations, from collectors or scavengers, and so on and so forth. Now, they take that waste and then they professionally decouple them, because one of the things about e-waste is if you're not careful, while you are trying to decouple or separate it, you end up releasing harmful gases into the environment, harming yourself and others in the process. So they do this professionally, and then they either ship this e-waste that they've been able to separate to those who utilize e-waste in their production process, or they give it to QuadLoop. So QuadLoop is sort of like an off-taker that takes the e-waste that has been decoupled and then looks through it and creates a product. So they have, I think, 3 products now in their particular lineup. They have Idunu, a product that's a solar panel light that you can have in your house, made from recycled materials, that's made from e-waste. Almost, I think, 80 to 90% e-waste materials. So the batteries, the casing, the lights, e-waste. They have the ones that can work on fans
and your system. And then I think the latest product they designed for people who work from home, is a sort of system that helps you charge your laptop. So it's only for charging like your laptop and maybe a light in your house. And all these things are made from e-waste. Now, when you are done, they have a timeline. You are allowed to use the product for, say, 2 years. When you are done with the product after 2 years, you return those products back to them. Or if it has a fault in those 2 years, you return it back to them, and then they fix it for you at probably a token. When you say, okay, the product is no longer in use, you still return back to them because they've been able to set up a system and structure that allows them to look at it and say, what parts of this particular item can we reuse in making another lighting system? It may not be the exact one, it may be another one, but then they have that system in place. So what they've done is they've thought about almost every aspect as to how to be able to keep their materials at the highest value, even if they are making use of what we would typically call waste as their basic material or as their basic raw material, that's their input. So that's one example of how to circulate your materials at highest value. We could also have furnitures. So there are furniture companies. So those that work in the fashion space can ideally do something like that. So a fashion designer per se can work with someone in the carpentry space to say that, okay, what we'll do is we're going to make lifestyle equipment or lifestyle tools. And we're going to have chairs and tables and decorative pieces in our homes that we make from wood and from fabrics. It can be recycled fabrics, it can be off-cut from any items. And then we give you a timeline. This timeline is that this particular product will probably last you sufficiently for 10 years. In the event you want to change your chair, because some people are there that don't want to use the same thing for that long, you could bring it back to us and we either redesign it for you in terms of probably changing the fabric covering or changing the layout or exchanging it with someone else's product, because you can do an exchange. We do this for phones. So you pay a particular sum of money, you get an upgrade in your phone. So these two companies, that's the carpenter and the furniture maker, come together. Furniture maker and the fashion designer rather come together and say, this is our product or this is our business and this is what we're going to be doing. So at every point in time, when the customer has used the product to a particular level of satisfaction, we're going to call for it back as a manufacturer and look at it and say, this is how we can use the wood. This is how we can use the foam. This is how we can use the fabric that is around that particular product. I don't know if these examples have been able to get you to begin to think about different ways as which. So these particular examples I've given, they're actually already operating in the country. They may be small scale at the moment, but with a little bit of awareness and getting people to know that this exists, these are ways that you can utilize products at their highest value or keep them in circulation at their highest value. Okay, so I'm going to do the last question. Mohammed, I was waiting for you to unmute. You did not, no problem. So the last one is, what can we learn from nature to apply to circular economy? What can we learn from nature to apply to circular economy? When you think about it, there are a lot of things we met here that we can learn from. How can we utilize, what exactly is it that we can do that helps with nature? So let's do 2 people and then we move quickly to the rest of the session. Okay. So I'm going to have John. John, you can speak up, and then Grace. Grace Fumilayo. After John, you can go. So John, are you ready? Okay, Grace, are you ready? Or this is not the question you wanted to answer?
Yeah, yes. Initially, it's not the question I wanted to.
Okay, go ahead and answer the question you wanted to answer.
But I can also say that there's something we can learn from nature. Okay. Looking at how God makes create things that each other depend on each other. You know, there are things that can become something waste, but it become useful to another thing, such as let me just talk about the leaves that fall from the trees. when those one are mean decay, it becomes a manure that also other plants can also depend on. So from this, it is also saying that we can also get from, there are things that are not useful there, but can also be turned into a useful material somewhere. So that is what I just want to contribute.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Mr. John. Grace Fumilayo, over to you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Thank you very much for this opportunity. So, what I wanted to talk, line actually we market every time you bring out black nylon. The black nylon is the yellow and black, and they all end up on landfills. So I think the manufacturers can actually think about reusing them. Maybe once they are used in the house, you wash them properly and get a place where you dump them, or you gather them together and they pick them up maybe for a token or something, and you regenerate them back into those nylon bags. Then about the nature you talked about, the nature, okay, has been operating in circular economy ever since God made the world. Like the animals, for example, they are feces. They are, once they die, they degrade, and they become compost. Then their can be used for designs. They are feces, like the chickens and the lice, can be used as manure as well. And go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Grace, and thank you once again, John, for that. So let me give one more person a chance to say something, and then we just move very quickly to the next part. So Nicholas, I see your name at the top, so please, you could go ahead and say something. Yeah?
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful lecture. What I want to say regarding circular economy and nature is we're looking into something like green plants, like plants or grasses generally, converting them to bioplastics. And these bioplastics are in nature, they can biodegrade. And after, they are single use. After they are single use, they are thrown away. Unlike styrofoam plastics for food packaging, that when you use them, you throw them away, they don't biodegrade. But these leaves contains lignin, which can bind themselves and make you can make takeaway place with them, which in turn can be eaten by animals, or termites can biodegrade them naturally. That is what I want to contribute.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Nicholas. So what Nicholas has done is sort of like helped us to transition into the next part of what we'll be talking about today. And thank you everyone that wanted to contribute. We're so sorry. So I'm not actually looking at the comments, but then I feel you can actually drop your contributions in the comments, and then I'll probably look at them while I go through the other sessions. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to look at something very quickly. We're supposed to watch a video, but I think I want us to check this one out first. Okay.
A circular economy keeps
Okay, so what we want to talk about now is something that Nicholas referred to, which is the fact that when it comes to packaging materials, we could actually begin to look at ways from scientific standpoint to say, how can we package materials, or how can we package products in materials or in packages that are biodegradable, rather than packaging them in things that we probably will not have use for anymore. And that brings us to 2 points, which is the biological and I think the technical flows that we have in circular economy. So for biological, it has to do with things revolving around nature. And then for the technical, it has to do more of with things that are more electronic or essentially do not degrade. So let's just watch this. It's 2 minutes and then
products, materials, and components in use. A circular economy keeps products, materials, and components in use at their highest value at all times.
ultimately seeking to decouple economic growth and development, it does so by distinguishing between two types of cycle. In the technical cycles, products, components, and materials are kept in circulation in the economy for as long as possible. In the biological ones, the strategy is to restore nutrients into the biosphere while rebuilding natural capital. Technical cycles are usually for products made from non-biodegradable materials such as metals. The most effective technical cycles involve maintaining and reusing products. This way, the value of a product is preserved and its usage length is increased. For instance, repairing a car or arranging a carpool so that a car is shared between several people is less resource intensive than building additional cars. Even when a user no longer needs a product, it might still be reused by others by reselling it or redistributing it to different markets. Once a product can no longer be reused as is, most of its value can still be retained by refurbishing or remanufacturing it. For example, a car manufacturer can remanufacture the engine and other components of cars that are no longer usable. If it's impossible to reuse, refurbish, or remanufacture a product, the materials in that product can be recycled. When recycled, the value of the product itself is lost, but the value of the materials is preserved. Biodegradable materials such as food or wood-based products can be cycled in biological cycles. These materials are renewable by nature, but further value can be created by cascading them for additional applications in different value streams. In a biorefinery, conversion processes can produce high-value chemicals and fuels. Organic materials that can't be used further can be composted or anaerobically digested to extract valuable nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and micronutrients. Important examples of materials that can go through this cycle include household food waste or sewage sludge. By leveraging these recovery strategies, systemic leakages and negative externalities can be minimized. Ultimately, a circular economy is about getting the most value from the resources we have by keeping them at their highest utility and value.
Okay. So we're going to talk very briefly on this. And like I said before, we had to watch the video. We talked about the two aspects, the biological aspect and then the technical aspect. And then, like they mentioned already, the technical aspect has to do with materials that don't necessarily biodegrade. Whereas in the biological aspect, you have materials that are biodegradable. And if you look at it carefully, the channels or how you go about both parts are quite different. So more attention is often paid to the technical part because a lot of times you have to do a lot of things to keep it in circulation. So there are a lot of things, like I mentioned earlier, you could share, you could maintain, you could use, refurbish, remanufacture, and then eventually you could recycle. And then on the other hand, for the biological aspect, most of them, because they biodegrade, you just have to put them in a place where they can easily merge back with nature. That's the key thing there, because a lot of times we find that people are not so aware that you shouldn't mix different kind of waste together. It just makes it harder to separate or to pull out the value that is within this two aspects. Okay. So when you think about it, and you can drop your comments now in the chats, I'll be using the chats for this one. Where on the butterfly diagram would you place if a mobile phone repair service? So a mobile phone repair service, would you place it in the technological aspect, the technical aspect rather, or you would place it in the biological aspect? Okay. For me, I would probably place it in the, yeah, someone has given an answer, a technological aspect, beautiful. And why is it technological? Because, of course, phones do not degrade. So you have to look for how you can use them for as long as possible. Now, a car sharing scheme, where would you place that as well? So for car sharing, where would you place that? You'd also place it in the technological aspect. So I'm going to give an instance or something that is not in this list here. For example, for food waste, where would you categorize food waste? For food waste, will it be under technical aspect or it will be under biological aspect? Someone is drawing beautiful designs on the on the slide. Please, could you refrain from editing or trying to write on the slides? It has made it all bundled up. Okay, so biological aspects. Thank you, biological aspect. Then I would probably say the last one, regenerative agriculture. Where would you place it? You place it on the biological aspect as well. Okay, thank you. So a lot of people are complaining about the time. Don't worry, I'm rounding up now. I think I just have 2 more things to go and then we're done. So let's quickly talk about sustainable consumption. So for sustainable consumption, when you think about it, it refers to the practice of using goods and services in a way that minimize let me take that again. Sustainable consumption refers to the practice of using goods and services in a way that minimizes the negative environmental, social, and economic impacts that it causes to the environment, and also ensuring that you're able to preserve the well-being of the present and future generation. That's basically it. So how does sustainable consumption come into play? It comes into play because it affects every single person. So it affects all of us. So you and I have a role to play when it comes to sustainable consumption. Why? Because we are the consumers of some sort of product or services. And how do we make our choices in a way that is sensible, or in a way that is, feasible? So when it comes to utilizing our products and services in a way that is sustainable, some of the options that we could do is we could use reusable bags, water bottles, food containers instead of the disposable ones. So it's advised that you use items that are reusable. So if you're going to take bags to the market, instead of always having the seller give you nylon bags of different lengths and sizes, you could prepare ahead of time and go to the market with either your basket, because there are baskets that are really, really fashionable that you could take to the market, or you could use bags that you can use multiple times. Then for water bottles, I know that it's becoming a practice in some areas to have dispensers, water dispensers, so people don't always have to buy waters in bags or in bottles, but they can just carry their water bottles to those places, maybe places of work, and refill, because it's easier to just refill than to continuously consume water out of plastic bottles and bags. The same thing applies to food containers. If you have the option, you could give someone your food container to get you food in it, rather than you having to utilize disposable ones. Another thing is to buy, so you could practice sustainable consumption, but by buying materials that are made from sustainable materials, buying products rather that are made from sustainable materials. There are a lot of products that you can buy from sustainable materials. Bamboo, for example, is a sustainable material. It doesn't take really long to grow, and then it can be utilized for many things. So for example, it can be utilized for water bottles, can be utilized for combs, can be utilized for equipment that you could use in your houses, tables, chairs, and all that. So by choosing products that are made from sustainable material, you are practicing sustainable consumption. Now, choosing products, I think it was Nicholas that mentioned the kind of packaging. So there are a lot of packaging that you could choose now that are made from recyclable or biodegradable materials. There's a company I'm going to show you, Printing and Packer. I think they'll be launching their product line in December. Their packaging material is made from banana leaves and water hyacinth. So it's a packaging material that you could use to package your products, anything it is that you want to sell, depending on the shape or size. You could talk to them and they create it for you. But it's made from banana leaves and water hyacinth, which those particular items are easily degradable, rather than having to always use nylons. Then we've talked about the different things when it comes to buying and probably selling, but what about how you consume energy in your house? So one way you could also practice sustainable consumption is by utilizing or limiting the amount of energy that you consume. So go for energy efficient appliances, and then practice simple things such as turning off lights when they are not needed, using public transport, biking instead of always having to drive a car. And if you watch what happened during the period of, I think when there was a fuel hike, a lot of people stopped using their cars. But I feel like that shouldn't have even been the reason why they should stop using their cars. They could have just looked at it from an environmental standpoint to say that I will be reducing the amount of carbon emission that I generate the atmosphere if I keep on driving my car every day. Alternatively, let me join a public transport, or let me share a ride with someone, and this helps me limit the amount of waste or carbon that is generated. And then finally, we have practicing sustainability by purchasing materials from companies that prioritize sustainability and social responsibility. So when it comes to choosing products, there are a lot of companies that would say, yes, we are not greenwashing you, we are actually sustainable, and we know that we have a responsibility to the environment. Some companies do this by doing CSR, but there are also some companies that from the very onset of their design, like we mentioned a lot, with circular economy, you have to look at the design as well. These companies that prioritize sustainability are the companies that we encourage you to choose when it comes to sustainable consumption, and there are quite a number of them. So we have Igo Glass. They make products, or they make services, they make products out of recycled glass materials. We have the coconut company I gave you the illustration about, that makes a lot of products from coconut and its waste materials. We have the Quadloop company I told you about, the energy resource or the energy efficient company that makes solar panels from e-waste. We have Printing and Packer, the company I told you about, that makes degradable packaging materials, biodegradable packaging materials from bananas and water hyacinths. And then we also have Think Bikes. It's a transportation company that makes transportation vehicles like bikes from e-waste materials. Now, this is where we're rounding up. What is sustainable production? I'm sure we have producers in the room. How can you identify that, okay, these particular things are not they are not crossing a line, but they are indeed sustainable? And you can do that by saying, okay, what I'm doing, is it non-polluting? Does it conserve energy and natural resources? Is it economically viable? Is it safe and helpful? Or is it safe and it does not affect the health of workers and community members? And then does it reward everybody at large? So when you look at it from this standpoint, you'll be able to know that, yes, what I'm practicing is sustainable production. So it's non-polluting, I conserve energy and natural resource, not that it's non-polluting and then you expand a lot of energy, or it's not economically viable, or it's all these other things, but somehow, probably because of the kind of materials that you use, it affects the workers that work in your organization. Then in those ways, you are creating a problem rather than a solution. The life cycle of the products. I've mentioned this a lot throughout this session, but then let's just break it down very briefly. What is the life cycle of the product? It starts from, again, the design. So when you are conceptualizing the idea, what exactly is it that you are looking out for in the design? And then the resource extraction or procurement of raw materials. What kind of resources are you procuring? Where do you get them from? And in the process of procuring these items, are you harming the environment or are you helping the environment? Then the actual production process itself. So when you are producing, what do you utilize in producing? Is it efficient? Is it safe? Is it non-polluting? Then distribution, marketing, and logistics. How do you distribute your items? How do you get it to the doorstep of people? How do you market? Do you lie about the features, or do you market using a customer awareness and engagement? Those are things you consider when you are developing a product. Then product use. How does your customer use your products? Because you have to think about that as well. Is it easy for them to use? Is it intuitive? Can they utilize it without any support? Or do they need some form of intensive training to get it right? Those are things you actually have to think about when it comes to designing products. And finally, disposal or reuse of the products and services. What happens at the end of the life of that product? What do they do? Do they come to you? Do they throw it in the dustbin? Is there a way you recover your materials that have been used by people, or your products that have been used by people? When you're able to think about these different points and dot your T's and cross your I's, you'll be sure that you have a product that is sustainable in those regards. So these are just examples that I've shared before. Okay, so this one I didn't talk about as it relates to agriculture. So what this company does is they grow rice. Now, in as much as they grow rice, they know that rice comes with shells or husk. Now, when they are done with with the processing of the rice, the shell, the husk, and all of their other agricultural waste products, they gather it together and make fertilizer that can be used by other producers or other agricultural people to grow their own plants. So in that standpoint, they're actually practicing what we've talked about before, where they're able to regenerate nature. So yes, we produce the rice, but at the same time, we take the waste from the rice and don't just leave it there, but we utilize it again in the agricultural process. This is the example of the things bikes I told you about. The bike here doesn't use I don't think it uses any so it doesn't use what's it called, fuel or any of those things, and it fully functions, and it comes in two variants. So there's a bike that you could just use to carry things from the market to your homes in rural areas, or to even carry to pick up plastic bottles in communities or facilities. And then there is the part that is powered for preserving cold foods, foods that are perishable. So that's the thing by Coolmax. So it's a functional unit that it can carry cold things that are perishable for a very long time. And that's on transportation. Then I think this is the last one I'm going to talk about here, which is construction. So we've talked about so many aspects, but we didn't talk about construction. For construction, there are companies and there is a company that takes paper waste, for example. So paper waste, this person has been able to say, paper waste, I'm going to take it and I'm going to make it into ceiling tiles. And that is what this person has been able to do by creating partnerships with companies such as Nigerian breweries and other companies that have paper in their own production process. They take the waste from those items and put it as an input to making ceiling tiles. And those ceiling tiles are very safe. According to them, they don't cause cancer. So most times the kind of things we use to build our houses are harmful to our environment, though it comes up in small doses. But these ones, they've been able to run tests on it to say that because they are not putting harmful chemicals into the process, it doesn't affect the health. And then they have a system whereby they can also install for you in your homes and in your companies or offices and things like that. So these different companies I've shared are able to create what we call sustainable production models. Okay, so this is where we round up, and everything we've said, really, when you think about it, it starts with the mindset, but the mindset of us as the consumers, as well as the producers. So if you know you're going to go into production, if you know you want to be an entrepreneur, if you know that there are things you want to do when it comes to business, right now, from this moment, you have to start thinking, how do I do it in such a way that I never ever see waste? And then as much as possible, pollution is eliminated from the whole thing. And when you're able to do it from that mind standpoint, you'll be able to see that we are able to achieve what we really want, which is a circular economy, where no waste is the goal. So thank you so much. So I'll leave it to Emmanuel because I think our time is far spent.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We sincerely appreciate. Please, let's appreciate our facilitator for today. It's been an engaging session indeed. And we apologize for the extra time we had on the session. You definitely know that it's for good. It's for good. And it's been an insightful session and engagement with her indeed. And I believe she has also treated various aspects of circular economy and as it relates to sustainable production and consumption. Once again, we say a big thank you for the session which you've led today. And for questions, I don't know, are there people that want to ask a question? However, we might not be taking much questions at all. We might not be taking much questions for the session. And if you have a question, please, you can raise your hand. You can raise your hand. I want to see your hand up. We'll just take 3 questions or 4 questions at once, then to respond to it. Hopefully by 11:50, we are done with the session. I would like to call on Adesiyan. Idiot from your state. Please, you can mute your mic and ask a question. Once it's 30 seconds, I will mute you. Please, your question in 30 seconds, please. Madam Deborah, please, we appreciate you put these questions together. Maybe you just know them first, then you can get to respond to it at once. Okay, Sunny, you can unmute your mic if you are there. Sunny Usma, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, thanks for the wonderful lecture delivered. So my question is, maybe it would not with regards to the lecture, but I just want you to shed more light. Like, what will be the benefit of all of?
So if your question is not regarding the lecture, please, you better don't ask that now. You better drop your hand, please. Questions that are being attended to are questions that are directed to this session. Okay, if your hand is up and your question is not directly to this lecture, please drop your hand so that we won't have to keep running over and over again. All right, yeah, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, yeah.
My question is that I have my all modern plus.
So your voice is low.
Hello.
Speak up.
Hello. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Hello.
We can hear you. Speak on.
We can hear you.
Please, you have to, maybe you drop your question in the comment section. Temitope, you can unmute your mic and ask a question. The tracking and evaluation form has been shared for those who are here to fill it. Please kindly fill that and ensure you do that. Temitope, you can unmute your mic and ask a question, please. Hello, Temitope, can you unmute your mic and ask a question? Anita, please, you can reshare the, Blessing, you can reshare the tracking and evaluation form over again for people that are here to receive it. Temitope from Lagos, you can unmute your mic and ask a question. Or John, you can unmute your mic and ask a question. John from Abuja, you can unmute your mic and ask a question.
Okay, thank you for that opportunity, sir. Yeah, I am really blessed with the lectures. I just want to ask a question on issue of partnership or networking. Based on the teachings we received today, like personally, I have a foundation, an NGO, that I may not also be venturing directly into this. Is there a way that we also can come as part of a contribution to the society or to the environment? How we can partner, whether with those that are into recycling, to actually impact the society?
Okay. All right, for the question. I hope you got that, Debbie.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, maybe we just take one more. I can't see. Okay, maybe you just respond to that. Okay, Uma, I can see Uma's hands up. Uma from Niger State, you can unmute your mic and ask a question. Please, it should be related to this.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am. My question is that about this. She was talking about the coconut shell, and that time the network was fluctuating, so I couldn't get it clear. So I want to get ideas of what and what can we be able to do with the coconut shell, because we have them in abundance in our area. So I want the instructor to tell me more about that coconut shell. Thank you.
Okay, over to you, man.
Okay, so thank you so much for the questions. For John, I think, Mr. John, you asked a question about foundation. So you have a foundation and you're asking what kind of partnerships can you have with, or how can you go about partnering with other recycling organizations? So I think there are a number of ways that you could go about this. So I'll start from maybe from your operations standpoint. So let's say you want to do something with an organization that does recycling. You have to look at what does your foundation do. You didn't mention that. What does the foundation do? And then you could say that if you have, so I know foundations typically do sensitizations and events and so on and so forth, maybe to enlighten people. You could say, okay, whenever you have these events or whenever you have sensitizations going on and there are materials, so there are waste that is generated, you could have a partnership with a recycling organization for them to be the major people that take off your waste. So that's one angle you could look at it from. Then number two, you could look at it and say that you want to have a limited time program to maybe tell people about the importance of recycling or teach them skills around upcycling processes. So it all depends on what your organization stands for, because that will form how you can look for link points between your organization and other organizations. So you could say, do you want them to come in as facilitators to come and enlighten people in your community or people that you work with? Do you want them to want to teach them? Because like we said, everybody is a consumer. At some point, all of us consume. So do you want to teach people how to consume or separate their waste properly? So these are like areas you can begin to look at to say, okay, where can I form linkages with this organizations that I want to partner with? So I think that one sort of answers the question. Depends on what you do and what you are looking to do with them. Then for the coconut shell, so for the coconut shell, there are a number of things you can do with coconut. You have coconut in abundance. So I said the husk for the coconut, you could partner with organizations that use it to make fire starters. So fire starters are like things you use to start, maybe you have coal. You want to do coal because it's not advisable to do firewood, but there are a number of people that still do firewood, or barbecues. So there are restaurants and bars and restaurants and bars. I didn't want to say the other one that do barbecues and things like that. So you could partner to take the husk and make it into fire starters that they can use to do that. Then for the shell, there are creative processes that you could use to make the shells into pieces. So you could use them to make pendants, necklace, bangles. But to do those things, like I said, partnership, you could partner with somebody who has those skills, if it's not a skill that you have, so that the person can refine those things and make them into those particular items. And then the normal one we know about, coconut oils. You could make coconut oil from coconut itself and sell that, package and sell that to people who use coconut oils. Ladies use it for their hair. Some people rub it on their skin. And then for the shells, you could also make candles, scented candles. So you find out what is the process for making candle, how can we add scents to it? And rather than using tin containers to pour out your wax that is going to solidify, you pour it into coconut shells and then you sell that as well. So there are a number of things when you think about it that you could do with coconut as well.
Okay, thank you so much for this response. Thank you. For those who are saying they can't access the link, Blessing, please reshare the link. Can you reshare the link with them? And I believe it's been a great time this morning across the two sessions we had, first on environmental sustainability and management, while the second on circular economy, responsible consumption and production. And we hope that this learning we have to unlearn, relearn, and then over again. It's very, very important. And we look forward to having each and everyone next week. And on behalf of the organization, thank you so much for the amazing session and impactful session you led this morning, Deborah. We sincerely appreciate this great time you spent with us and all the series you've been running with us throughout this year. It's been so amazing. Thank you for the impact. Thank you for the knowledge you keep sharing, and we are really grateful. And sincere regards to Dr. Natasha. She too was with us yesterday at the opening ceremony. We sincerely appreciate the great work you do at Circular Innovation Partnership. All right, dear participant, we hope to see you next week, Thursday, same time, 9 a.m., and which is going to be our next session is going to be Thursday and Friday, which is going to be the final lap of this workshop series. Please take your time, and the attendance has been shared. Okay, let me see if I can also reshare from my end. So please ensure you fill that before you leave today's class. And also the WhatsApp link for all the states are going to be shared. I know the program managers are already prepared that. So you can get to connect with each other across your respective states. You can get to network with each other and start, you can start getting to build that partnership, that collaboration, and get to educate and enlighten each other. Yeah, there's, no matter how clear a vision is to you, it's not meant to be achieved alone. With good collaboration with others, you can get to achieve it more better and more successfully. And we look forward to your active engagement. Definitely once this phase ends, we are going to the second phase, which has to do with advocacy, campaign, and great research and development works. Have a wonderful weekend. And if there are other questions, please, you can, once the general community is being open, you can get to ask your questions there. And I must not leave this platform without appreciating the leadership of MIDEF Africa and SGSN Nigeria for creating this great avenue for people to learn and also to get to innovate towards achieving circular economy and sustainable waste management in Nigeria. And kudos to the project team. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, each and everyone. We appreciate your great effort. Right about now, we have to call it a close for today's session. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.
We're number 7 in the world in terms of population. By 2050, we're going to be number 3 in the world, just after China and India. So if we don't take care of our waste, the waste will come back and waste us. Every time I came home, one of the things that jumped out at me was the amount of waste that I saw in my environment. And this was very concerning, especially coming from the US. So one of the things that I decided when I finally moved back home to Nigeria was that I was going to be part of the solution. So one of the things that I started was this idea around the cash for trash, where we can turn waste into wealth by also creating jobs.
Ba ni da wani sana'an da nake